Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Kakashi get female Sasuke pregnant. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Lord Hokage, I have a request. Kakashi says. What is it, Kakashi? The third Hokage asks. I would like to take Sasuke Uchiha into my care. I understand that I am young to be a guardian for a child. But if I am capable of performing Jonin and Anbu duties, I am more than capable to keep one child safe. The silver-haired ninja says. Kakashi, that is kind of you to offer. But I do not believe you fully understand what you are getting yourself into. This isn't just any child. Sasuke is a child who has suffered from a seriously traumatic event. He is currently in the hospital. We do not know if his mind will survive this experience intact. Even if he does somehow process what happened, he'll never be the same. Sarutobi warns him. I can handle it. Besides, what's the alternative? Do you think it is a good idea to leave a 7-year-old child alone, after that happened to him? He'll think about nothing but the massacre. It will drive him insane or make him do something foolish, like going after Itachi. It'd be cruelty to leave him alone after the massacre. He continues to argue. Well, I suppose if anyone can teach him how to use the Sharingan, it would be you. I'll admit that I was uncertain what to do with him once he was released from the hospital. But if it gets to be too much for you, Kakashi, please tell me. We will make other arrangements for the boy. He relents. Thank you. Obito wouldn't have wanted him to be alone. Kakashi says. So that is what this about. Kakashi, his death wasn't your fault. You can't blame yourself for what happened. The third tells him. Partially. But even if Obito hadn't been my teammate, I still couldn't in good conscience leave the kid alone. I was alone after my father died. I would have liked it if someone had reached out to me. He says. I understand. Well, it will likely take a few days before he can be released from the hospital. Do you wish to take him to your apartment or to live in the Uchiha district? He questions. I will ask him what he prefers. He might prefer the district because it will give him a sense of normalcy. But he might also not want to go back there after seeing his clan butchered like that. The copycat ninja replies. Very well. I'd prepare your apartment just in case. Is it big enough for 2 people to live in? He asks. It is big enough. Not nearly as spacious as his family's home, but it would be more than adequate. Kakashi answers. Meanwhile, Sasuke wakes up in the hospital. He was horrified. His entire family was gone. Itachi had betrayed them. They were all gone. How could his brother do this? He could hear the medics talking about it. He was all alone. This couldn't be happening. It had to be a nightmare. He'd open his eyes and see his mother's smiling face, his father's proud one, or Itachi's loving one. It was a bad dream. Yes, that had to be it. Sasuke, there is someone here to see you. One of the doctors told him. Who? He asks and tilts his head. Kakashi walks in. Sasuke didn't recognize this man. He was strange. He wore a blue mask over most of the bottom of his face. He had silver hair, even though he was young. But that's when Sasuke saw it. The man had a Sharingan. Someone else had survived. It was really weird that he didn't recognize this member of his family. But the Uchihas were a large clan. So it was possible that he just hadn't met this relative yet. Maybe he was away on missions a lot and that was why Itachi hadn't killed him. Itachi didn't get you. The child says happily and lunges at Kakashi with his arm wide open for a hug. No, he didn't get me. Hello, Sasuke. I'm Kakashi. He says. How are we related? Are we cousins? I don't remember seeing you around the district before. But I'm really glad he didn't get you. Sasuke exclaims. Uh-oh. The kid had seen his Sharingan. It was only natural that Sasuke would assume they were related by blood. He couldn't possibly expect a 7-year-old to think of the possibility that he had the Sharingan transplanted into him. How did one even go about explaining that to a child? For a moment, Kakashi considered lying. He could say that he was a distant relative. It would obviously make Sasuke happy. It was certainly easier than explaining. But he couldn't do it. The kid had been lied to enough. We aren't related. I have one Sharingan because my friend gave it to me. It was his last wish before he died. He explains. You can give away your Sharingan? Sasuke asks and seems horribly confused by this. Yes, he was dying. It was better than risking an enemy ninja stealing it from his body or having it go to waste. The silver-haired man tries to explain. Oh, I guess that makes sense. Sasuke squirms, obviously being justifiably grossed out at imagining someone's eye being cut out. Yes, but one of your family members was on my team. He was my best friend. I would like to take care of you. If you will let me. He says. Why did he only give you one eye though? That doesn't make much sense. The inquisitive child demanded to know. He was being crushed to death by a boulder. His other eye was already gone. It was not an easy death. Kakashi winces as he relives that painful memory. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you sad. He says with an aura of innocence. It's not your fault, Sasuke. I just miss him. What do you say? He asks. I'll go with you. He states in a surprisingly somber voice that no child should possess. He had the Sharingan, well at least one Sharingan. He had been on the same team as one of his family members. Kakashi, Mini Sasuke realized, was the closest thing to family that he had left. Good, they are going to want to look you over for a few days. But while they are doing that, I need to know where you want to live. Do you want to live in your clan's district or in my home? Kakashi asks. Please don't make me go back. Sasuke says and hugs Kakashi's leg. The poor kid. Damn, the world could be cruel sometimes. Well, at least Kakashi had his answer. Sasuke preferred his apartment. He couldn't blame the kid. If he had been in Sasuke's position, he wouldn't have wanted to go back either. Alright, I'll get your stuff while the medics look you over and get my place ready for you. Try to be a good boy for the medics, okay? He asks. Sasuke nods his head and heads off. Kakashi leaves the hospital and stops by Guy's place. Guy was his best friend and rival. He could be trusted in this strange situation. So let me get this straight? You're taking in a 7-year-old kid who just found out his entire family was murdered by his brother? Guy asks. Yes, that's right. Kakashi replies. Are you insane? Kakashi, that poor kid needs professional help. He needs medics and therapists. You are just a 21-year-old bachelor. What do you know about raising a kid, especially a kid with his circumstances? His friend questions him. I know it's better than leaving him alone. He needs someone now. Obito would have wanted someone to step in. Do we really want to ignore him and let Itachi scar his mind forever, while he suffers alone? The copycat ninja demands. You got a point there. Have you talked to the kid yet? The spandex lover inquires. A little. He's agreed to go with me. He'd rather live in my apartment than go back there. I can't say I blame him. His friend replies. Resilient little thing, isn't he? He's actually coherent and willing to have conversations? Guy asks. Yes, very resilient. He was perfectly coherent. I think it's a good sign. I think the kid may make it out of this with his sanity intact. So I came to you because I need some help getting my apartment ready for someone his age to live in. He continues. You want to baby-proof the place? The bushy-eyebrowed man questions. More or less, but more like Sasuke-proof. He's 7, so it's not like we need to go all out. But yeah, there are a few things I'd have concerns about. I don't want him to get into my kunai collection and poke his eye out. He states. Yeah, good point. Let's do it. He says and heads off with Kakashi. The two spend the rest of the day, preparing Kakashi's place. Guy retrieved Sasuke's stuff from the Uchiha district. Kakashi focused on making the guest room fit for human habitation. By the end of the day, they both collapsed, exhausted. A few days later, Kakashi takes Sasuke to his apartment. He let the kid look around. It reminded Kakashi of how a kitten or puppy might sniff around the various rooms when they were first brought home. But Sasuke wasn't a puppy or a kitten. He was a human being. A very hurt human being, who needed Kakashi's help. I brought all your stuff for you. Kakashi tells him. Sasuke walks over to the box of clothes, toys, and other necessities. He promptly finds a stuffed dinosaur that he hugs to his chest. The youngest Uchiha was walking around the apartment, clutching onto it for dear life. It was as if that stuffed animal now symbolized something very critical in his young mind. Kakashi wasn't sure what it was, but he decided not to comment on it. Let him have his security blanket, of sorts. Sometime later, Kakashi hears giggling. Oh boy, what had Sasuke gotten into? He follows Sasuke's voice to the kitchen. Sasuke had opened the fridge and found the sake. You've got to be kidding. Sasuke, did you drink out of this bottle? Kakashi says and holds up the partially empty bottle. Yes, it makes me feel funny. Sasuke says and hiccups. Sasuke, you aren't supposed to drink sake until you are much older. Kakashi tells him. Ah, but I like it. Sasuke hiccups again. Kakashi didn't know whether to mentally awe at the adorable picture that a tipsy Sasuke presented, be angry, or worried. He sighs and puts the sake on top of the fridge. Now at least Sasuke wouldn't be able to reach it. Sasuke, do you know how to bathe yourself? Kakashi asks. He sincerely hoped he did. Otherwise that was going to be very, very awkward. Please gods and goddesses, let the kid know how to take a bath on his own. Yeah, is it bath time? Sasuke says and makes a face. Yes, yes it is. Kakashi says and shows him to the bathroom. Sasuke pouts but heads inside. Kakashi chuckles. He was a cute kid. He had to give him that. He was going to be a real heartbreaker in about a decade. Morning came. Kakashi had tried to cook breakfast for them. He wanted to give Sasuke a sense of normalcy. Unfortunately, he was a bachelor who was more used to eating ninja rations than at home. When he was home, he generally got takeout or things that didn't need cooked. Operation Breakfast ended up in disaster. Smoke soon flooded the apartment. Sasuke smelled the smoke. Naturally, he went to see what was going on. He laughs when he sees Kakashi in the kitchen. Kakashi couldn't cook, it seemed. It's okay. Father couldn't cook either. But mother showed me how. The kid ambles into the kitchen and proceeds to start making scrambled eggs. Well, it's the thought that counts. Kakashi chuckles. Yeah, Sasuke agrees and pours himself some orange juice. Sasuke, I understand if you don't want to go back to school today. But do you? He asks. Yes, need to get stronger, so I can beat Itachi. He says somberly. Oh boy. Alright, Sasuke, let's get you to the academy. Please don't do anything like trying to run off to find him. Kakashi pleads. I won't. I have to get strong enough to beat him first. Then I'll find him. Sasuke says as if it was obvious. Kakashi sighs. He wondered what on earth he had gotten himself into. Oh well, there was no time to dwell on it now. He helps the child get to school. Sasuke, you're back already? Are you sure you are up to this? Iruka asks kindly, when he sees the survivor. Sasuke gives a determined nod of his little head. Iruka looks at Kakashi uncertainly. His eyes asking, do you really think he's ready for this? Kakashi just gives a nod of his head. If Sasuke wanted to go back to school, it was only right that he at least let the kid try. Alright, Sasuke, go join your classmates. They're playing hide and go seek. Iruka says. Hide and go seek was a common game at ninja academies for the younger students. It was important that ninjas work on their stealth skills. Why not make it a game? Thanks, Iruka-sensei. Sasuke says and races off to join his classmates. How is he really? Iruka asks Kakashi. It's difficult to tell. On the surface at least, he appears to be doing much better than anyone could have reasonably expected. But he wants to get stronger to defeat Itachi. He's very determined about this. I worry that he'll do something stupid like go after him. Kakashi sighs. It's only natural that he'd want revenge. So where is he staying? Did anyone take him in? Iruka questions. He's staying with me, at my apartment. He didn't want to go back to the district. He answers. Are you sure that's a good idea? Kakashi, you are a bachelor. It's not a lifestyle that is really fit for a child. He muses. Iruka, I'm not going to have orgies in my apartment with the kid there. I can handle it. I'm not completely clueless. The silver-haired ninja protests. Alright, well if you need anything, please don't hesitate to ask. It's terrible, what happened? He mutters. Yes, it is. Kakashi agrees. Sasuke quickly finds a hiding spot. It looked like a group of slightly older kids had found someone. She had blue hair and lavender eyes. Sasuke had never seen eyes like those before. They were picking on her. He saw that a loud blonde in his year was heading over. It looked like said loudmouth was going to try to help her. But he was outnumbered. Well, Sasuke couldn't protect his family, but he could help to protect the girl with the pretty eyes. My name is Naruto Uzumaki and I'm going to be Hokage. I'm not going to let you pick on her. The blonde decrees. Sasuke even at 7 raises an eyebrow. Did this loser actually think his scrawny butt was going to be Hokage? Never mind. What mattered was helping said idiot save the girl, who was currently on the ground and crying. It looked like they might have actually hit her. You in what army? The older kid says. He doesn't need an army. The two of us are more than enough to beat you up. Sasuke says and walks over, standing at Naruto's side. Uh-oh. Stand back guys. It's the Uchiha. He's probably cursed. He might sick their ghosts on us. The oldest kid says. That pissed Sasuke off. How dare he talk about his family like that? He wasn't cursed. I don't know any ghosts to sick on you. But I know something better. Fireball jutsu, he says and blows a small fireball at them. Sasuke was relieved that his father had taught him their family's trademark jutsu before his death. If he hadn't, would Sasuke have ever learned it? Anyway, it scared the hell out of the older kids long enough for Naruto to start swinging. Sasuke hated to admit it, but the loser could throw a good punch for a 6 or 7-year-old. Not bad, for a loser. Sasuke says, and he fights back to back with the other boy. Jerk. Naruto calls out, but nevertheless fights side by side with Sasuke. Eventually, they beat the older kids. Naruto goes over and asks the girl if she was okay. She thanked them. That's when Sasuke saw Iruka-sensei coming. Uh-oh. Sasuke, I knew it was too early for you to be back in school. You are already getting into fights. Naruto, again? Can't you ever stay out of trouble? He says with a sigh. They saved me. The brunette stammers out. What was that, Hinata? Iruka asks. The other boys, they hit me. Naruto and Sasuke made them stop. She manages to get out. Oh, it seems I owe you boys an apology. Hinata, let's get you to the nurse. He offers kindly and takes her hand. Okay, she says and gets led off, but casts a backward glance at the boys. How'd you do that? Breathing fire with your mouth? Naruto asks. My father taught me, Sasuke says. Oh, I wish I had a father that would teach me how to do cool stuff like that. He replies. Me too. My father is dead now. Sasuke says and looks at his feet sadly. What about your mother? The blonde asks. She's dead too. They are all dead, except my brother. He killed them all. Sasuke mutters and clutches his tiny fists in anger. Oh, I'm sorry. Naruto mutters, not sure what to say. Thanks. You don't have a dad either? He asks. Nope, no mother either. But they died when I was a baby. I never knew them. He says. I'm sorry. Sasuke says. We can be each other's own family. He chimes merrily. I thought I was a jerk? Sasuke asks. You are, but you can do really cool stuff and this way we don't have to be alone. He says. And you're still a loser. But okay. Sasuke says and does a fist bump with him. Great. Naruto says with a big smile, which Sasuke returns with a smaller one. Iruka comes back a few minutes later and finds Kakashi. He shakes his head. Honestly, there was never a dull moment at the academy. Well, Kakashi, it looks like you got a buy one, get one free special. He states in amusement. What are you talking about? The silver-haired ninja asks confused. Sasuke and Naruto decided that they consider each other a jerk and a loser, but they are family now. They don't want to be alone. Iruka says and points to the boys doing a fist bump. I'm not going to end up adopting the entire village, am I? Kakashi asks. I don't think so. It appears to just be them. They saved Hinata. She's another student. The older kids were harassing her. It's good to see that chivalry isn't dead, at least on the playground. He muses. Hinata? As in Hieshi's daughter? Kakashi asks. Yes, that's right. Iruka confirms. Oh boy. Now I'll probably have to deal with his royal stickness. Kakashi muses. His royal stickness? Iruka asks. He's got a stick lodged permanently shoved up his ass. Kakashi explains. Kakashi, there are children around, he says scandalized. You asked, so I answered. Kakashi replies with a shrug. Hinata meanwhile had just gotten patched up by the nurse. She heads back to the playground. She smiles when she sees Naruto and Sasuke together. They had saved her. They were so brave. She hoped one day she could be like them. She was always so shy. Maybe they could be friends? She cautiously approaches them, but she was cut off by a rush of girls heading over to see them. Sasuke, I'm so sorry about what happened to your family. Ino says. Me too. Sakura says. Thanks. Sasuke says and takes a couple steps back. He was feeling a little overwhelmed. He and Naruto had been swarmed by about 10 girls their age. It was enough to make any young boy skittish. There was so much pink. We all got you something. They chime and show him various sweets. Thank you. Sasuke says and is suddenly holding a rather large pile of sweets. Sasuke hated sweets, but they were trying to be nice. Maybe Naruto or some of the other guys would like them? Loser, you want any? Sasuke asks. Naruto grabbed a box of chocolates. He started wolfing them down greedily. Sasuke didn't think it was a lack of table manners. Naruto was scrawny. No wait, he was underweight. Sasuke couldn't possibly know it at that moment, but Naruto had mostly dined off of ramen because that was all he could afford. So he had grown to love it out of necessity. You are going to get sick if you keep eating them like that, Sasuke warns. Sure enough, a few minutes later Sasuke could hear the sounds of someone throwing up. He sighs. Well, he had tried to warn the idiot. Sasuke had been living with Kakashi and Naruto for 5 years. He knew he was lucky. The boy was smart enough to know that the leaf generally didn't give a damn about orphans. He could have been alone, just like Naruto would have been, if he hadn't intervened. Kakashi, can Naruto live with us? His parents are dead too. Sasuke remembered asking. Sasuke, I really don't know if my apartment is big enough for the both of you. The silver-haired ninja says and rubs the back of his head sheepishly. That's okay. We talked it over. We are okay with sharing a room. Sasuke says helpfully. You might be fine with sharing a room now, but what about in a few years when you will want your privacy? He chuckles. Why would it be different in a few years? Naruto asks innocently. Please Kakashi. Sasuke says and unleashes a weapon that Kakashi would become intimately familiar with in the following years, the bubble eyes of doom. The kid could make the saddest face you had ever seen. No one could say no to the face. Sasuke seemed to realize this too. He was quite manipulative for a 7-year-old. Kakashi knew he was being conned. But the kid had already suffered so much. If he wanted to share a room with his friend for a while, he might as well humor him. Eventually the kids would drive each other nuts and Naruto would go back to his place. That's what Kakashi had thought anyway. He would later be proven very wrong. Alright, we'll try it out and see if you two like sharing a room together. He relents. Thank you, Kakashi. Sasuke says with a big smile and hugs his leg. Kakashi's heart melted. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei. Naruto yells and hugs his other leg, with an even bigger smile, and Kakashi's heart melted even more. Warning: Sasuke finds Kakashi's book, The Talk. Ever since then, Naruto and Sasuke had shared a room. They had grown used to each other. But things were starting to get a little annoying. Sometimes a boy just had to be alone, during certain activities. It would be nice to be able to take a cold shower to take care of certain problems, without Naruto asking what was taking him so long. Sasuke was a few months older than Naruto. So maybe it was to be expected, he'd hit puberty first. Really, taking a cold shower was the only option. He wasn't going to jack off with Naruto in the same room. Now, he totally got why Kakashi said he might want his privacy later on. Speaking of Kakashi, Sasuke blamed his morning wood problems on that pervert. Really, Sasuke was innocent. He had just been curious. Kakashi was always reading those orange books. It was only natural that he'd want to see what held his guardian's attention. So one day, Sasuke had stolen one of the books. It had been quite the education. So that was where babies came from. People could do that with their mouth? Oh, so that's what fuzzy handcuffs were used for. He'd also been introduced to all sorts of new fun words like orgasm, kink, fetish, fantasy, bondage, and the list went on. Really, it was quite the educational experience. This is all his fault. Sasuke growls as he gets out of the bathroom. Other than this occasional awkwardness, Sasuke enjoyed sharing a room with Naruto. Naruto was always there for him, waiting to listen to whatever Sasuke had to say, fight with Sasuke, talk with Sasuke, or just train with him. He was never alone. This is all whose fault? Kakashi asks good-naturedly. Yours and that damn book. He snarls and then covers his mouth. Damn it. He wasn't supposed to let Kakashi know he'd gotten into one of his books. This wasn't going to end well. This was going to end in utter embarrassment. I was wondering where the 4th book in the Makeout Paradise series went. I guess I have my answer. I suppose that does explain your sudden fondness for cold showers. I probably should have prepared a speech for this. But I'm not going to insult your intelligence by using some birds and the bees metaphors. So, I guess we need to have the talk. I'm not doing this twice, by the way. Naruto, get in here. Kakashi yells. Coming. What is it? Naruto says as he skids inside the room. I'm going to die of humiliation. Sasuke sighs and smacks his forehead. Oh, this is going to be good. What has the bastard all embarrassed? Naruto asks cheerfully. Well, you boys are getting older now. Certain changes are going to happen to your bodies. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It's just a fact of life. Now, I suppose we should start with the basics. There are many different UAL orientations, but the most common are straight, gay, lesbian, and bi. He begins. Oh, for God's sakes, Kakashi, I'm not that clueless. Sasuke says and tries to walk out of the room. Kakashi grabs Sasuke and pulls him back in. He gives Sasuke a look that says sit. Sasuke wisely sits down. Alright. What's a UAL orientation and what do all those things mean? Naruto asks merrily. You are really that stupid? Sasuke asks. Bastard. I'm not stupid. I'm just asking questions, so you don't get all confused. He says. UAL orientation refers to what gender or genders you are attracted to. Straight women like men. Straight men like women. Lesbians are women who like women. Gays are men who like men. Bisexuals are attracted to men and women. Kakashi explains. Now, I'm just going to assume that you are both straight. When a man loves a woman very much, Kakashi begins and can't believe he is saying this. He gives her orgasms. Sasuke states. Well, ideally, yes. The silver-haired ninja says, and honestly he was too stunned to say much else. I read the book, remember? Sasuke says smugly. Kakashi shakes his head in amusement. Well, at least Sasuke got the general idea of it. Naruto looked confused. He sighs, this was going to be a long and very awkward conversation. It took about an hour to explain the basics. Kakashi was nothing if not thorough. He explained the most basic mechanics kunai into pouch A, B, or C. The silver-haired ninja with the greatest mortification explained what an erection was. He introduced the concept of virginity, contraception, and self-pleasuring. He let Naruto know that yes, the stork story was a lie. That was not where babies came from. This caused Sasuke to snicker. He tried his best to explain what an orgasm was, since Naruto wanted to know. In his words, if the bastard knows, I should know too. Sasuke snickered again. Sasuke seemed to be doing a lot of that today. It seemed he was rather smug about knowing more than Naruto did about this topic. Kakashi decided to leave the more advanced topics such as positions, kinks, and so forth for another day. Sasuke seemed rather interested to learn more about what Kakashi would refer to as light bondage. Thankfully, he was still relatively innocent. Mostly he wanted to know about fuzzy handcuffs and spanking. It confused Sasuke that a punishment for a child was considered erotic by some adults. One did have to admire the boy's eagerness to learn though. End of the talk. So that should cover the basics. Do you have any questions? Kakashi asks. Is Naruto going to be okay? Sasuke says and pokes the blonde with a stick. It looked like the talk had been a little bit too much for the innocent boy to take. He was in shock. Kakashi rubs the back of his head sheepishly. Good thing he hadn't gone into advanced topics. Yes, I think so. I probably should have waited another year or two in Naruto's case. But I really didn't want to go through all that again. He says with a sigh. Yeah, Sasuke says and pokes Naruto with the stick again. Sasuke, stop poking Naruto. He'll wake up soon enough. Kakashi tells him. Alright, well, at least I know how to restore my clan now. I mean a lot of girls at the academy follow me around. Maybe one of them would help. But they are so annoying. I don't know if I'd want them to be the mother of my children. He says and seems to be pondering this topic as seriously as a 12-year-old could. Sasuke, you are way too young to be restoring your clan. Kakashi says, but it would be a good idea to do it before I go to kill Itachi. What if something goes wrong? My clan could die with me. He points out. Sasuke, at least wait until you are a Jonin. Kakashi sighs. Alright, I have to be strong enough to protect my family anyway. He says with a shrug. Exactly. Kakashi says and shakes his head. Oh boy. One fainted. The other was ready to start making babies. How the hell did two boys who shared the same room end up being at such different stages of development? The next day, Sasuke and Naruto head to the academy. Naruto was still overwhelmed by all the information Kakashi gave them. He still had fish face, as Sasuke called it. Fish face was when your mouth was open and you were gaping like a fish. Usually this happened when you were shocked. Sasuke sorta felt sorry for the blonde. It was still funny as hell though. The final exams were getting closer. Sasuke had been working with Naruto. He didn't know why making a shadow clone was so difficult for the blonde. But he was hoping that he'd be able to pull it off and graduate. That was all he needed and he'd be set. Morning, Sasuke. Sakura, Ino, and varying degrees of generic fangirls say as they swarm him. Morning, he mutters. He didn't know why they did this every day. If he liked one of them, he would have said so by now. The only girl that didn't fucking stalk him was Hinata. Therefore, she was the only girl that he tolerated in this class. He barely knew her. After Naruto and he had saved her all those years ago, he had tried to talk to her. He wanted to be friends. But every time he tried to talk to her, he'd get swarmed by the fangirls. So he had eventually given up after about a year of this annoying behavior. Hey, Ino, Naruto says. Sasuke smirks. Well, at least Naruto was doing better. The youngest Uchiha didn't know why most of the village treated Naruto like a pariah before they became friends. But at least the kids at the academy were starting to warm up to him. Mostly because the girls saw Naruto was Sasuke's best friend. If Naruto liked them, maybe Sasuke would. But now the cheerful blonde was starting to get at least a couple admirers. Naruto was lucky though. His admirers weren't crazy stalkers, like Sasuke's. He sighs. Hey, Naruto, Ino says. Sasuke would never understand girls. The less interested he acted, the more they chased. Weren't the men supposed to do the chasing? It was always that way in Kakashi's book. He briefly contemplates sending them all a copy of it. But then he decides, he'd never get any peace if he did. They'd take the wrong message from that. Kakashi would probably get in trouble too. Yeah, it was a bad idea. At recess, Sasuke noticed Hinata was off by herself. She looked worried. Actually, she looked sad. There was just something about those eyes of her that drew him like a moth to a flame. She seemed so fragile. Hinata? He asks, after making sure that for once his fangirls weren't flocking around him. Sasuke, she says and seems embarrassed at having been caught hiding. Something shimmered on her face. The sun had struck her at just the right angle. It was glistening. Was that a tear? She was crying. What's wrong? He asks as he makes his way over to her. Nothing, she stammers. Hinata, you are a really bad liar. You need to work on that if you are ever going to do intelligence gathering missions. He informs her. Sorry, she mumbles and looks at her feet. You are apologizing for being a bad liar? He asks in disbelief. I guess so? She asks uncertainly. He tilts his head. She was acting like a dog that expected to be beaten at any moment. Why was she so painfully shy? Why had she been crying? He decided he was going to get to the bottom of this. He places his hand under her chin and forces her to look up at him. Hinata, I asked what's wrong. And I'm not going to let you stare at your feet again. You're a Hyuga. You come from a noble clan. You should be proud of that and hold your head high, not be looking at your feet all the time. I mean they're cute feet, but yeah. He says, you think my feet are cute? She asks in confusion. Yeah, I mean, well you know as far as feet go. That really wasn't the point. What's bothering you? I saw your tears. He says, it's the graduation ceremony. She answers and looks away. Why would that bother you? Can't your family make it? He questions. It's not that. It's what happens afterwards. I've always been the weak one in my family. I'll only SLO my team down. I'll just disappoint my father more. Neji should be the next clan head, not me. She mumbles. Hinata, you're not weak. You're just shy. You could do better if you weren't so scared of failing. You won't slow your team down. If your father is disappointed in you, he's an idiot. And, I don't know who Neji is. I'm sure he's great, but you were born to lead. He says. Really? She asks with big wide eyes. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. Really? You'll be a good leader because you care. Most people don't. He tells her. I got it. One of the academy kids says as they try to catch a frisbee. He didn't have it though. He knocked Sasuke right over, who in turn ended up pushing Hinata into the ground when he fell. Their lips touched accidentally. Sasuke didn't know what happened. One minute he was talking to Hinata. The next he was on top of her. He could feel her soft lips against his. Instinct took over. He pressed his lips against hers experimentally. He heard Hinata gasp, but he was too curious to really stop. She tasted like watermelon. It was a very pure taste. Good and unassuming. He decided he liked it and was about to try to introduce his tongue, like the books had said. That's when he felt himself get yanked off Hinata by someone much bigger than he was. Sasuke, do you mind telling me what you were doing just now to Hinata? Iruka demands. Quote ellipsis. We got bumped into each other. He says. It's true. Sorry Sasuke. Sorry Hinata. The frisbee kid calls out. It's okay Hinata stammers, blushing furiously. Hinata, is that true? Iruka asks. Yes, she answers. And you aren't just saying that because you don't Sasuke to get into trouble? He inquires. It was an accident. She mumbles. I'm afraid I'm going to have to get Kakashi here and Hiashi. Iruka sighs, not entirely sure. Hinata was the type of girl that might lie to get someone out of trouble. Sasuke was very popular with the girls. Hinata might have gone along with it, just so she'd fit in. While Hinata was innocent, Sasuke had been raised for the last 5 years by a man whose favorite hobby was reading erotic literature. His innocence was certainly up for debate. Kakashi blinks when he gets a scroll asking him to come to the academy. He goes to Iruka's office. He was surprised to see Hiashi there. Sasuke was there and Hiashi's daughter. Kakashi couldn't recall the girl's name at the moment. Well, I'll be blunt. There was an incident. I'm not exactly sure if it was an accident or not. Iruka sighs. What incident? Hiashi demands to know. Sasuke either intentionally kissed Hinata or it was an accident and they both ended up in a compromising position. Iruka says, You touched my daughter? Hiashi roars at Sasuke. Yeah, I did. It was an accident. Some stupid idiot fell into me. So I fell on top of Hinata. Our lips touched. That's it, Sasuke says. Hinata, is this true? Hiashi questions. Yes. Sasuke didn't kiss me on purpose. She mumbles. You can tell me the truth, Hinata. If he forced himself on you in any way, he will be punished. You don't need to worry about what he'll do. You will be protected. Hiashi assures her. He didn't do it on purpose. Sasuke was being really nice to me before it happened too. She stammers. Really nice, how? He questions and stares at Sasuke in what Sasuke supposed was supposed to be an intimidating fashion. Sasuke was 12, but he knew Hiashi's type. He remembered his father. He had seen his entire family killed by his brother. He had no fucks to give about Hiashi trying to stare him down. He stared right back at him. He was trying to make me feel better. She mumbles. Why were you upset? He asks. She was upset because of you. She was crying because of you. You made her feel like she wouldn't be a good clan head. That she would be a burden on her team. Sasuke growls at him. Well, as much as a 12-year-old could growl. Boy, this is a private discussion between me and Hinata. Stay out it, he barks. It's not a private discussion when she's crying because of you. Sasuke snarls. Sasuke, calm down. Kakashi says. I'm not going to calm down. He's mad at me for something that wasn't my fault. He's the one who is upsetting Hinata, not me. Sasuke says. Well, Kakashi, I have to give you credit. You've raised a very brave boy. His manners could use some work. Also, he needs to learn how to respect his superiors. Hiashi observes. Now you've gone and done it. Kakashi says with a sigh. My superior? Sasuke snarls at him, his Sharingan activating fully for the first time. He could feel his blood boiling with rage. He'd never wanted to kill anyone other than Itachi before. His superior? The man who led a clan who was half enslaved. Was he fucking joking? Your Sharingan activated. Impressive. But I'm afraid I have more experience with my Byakugan, if it's a fight you are after. You will lose, he states. Hiashi, threatening a 12-year-old boy is beneath you. Kakashi says. Yes, I suppose you are right. It's clear that as misguided as his actions are, it is only because he is worried about Hinata. Which I do appreciate, but let me make one thing perfectly clear. I am the one in charge of Hinata's well-being, not you. So go back to your sandbox and play. He states. Fireball jutsu. Sasuke calls out. He wanted to hurt him. He hurt Hinata. He insulted Sasuke. He deserved it. Sasuke would teach him not to underestimate him. He's not even a genin and can use fire jutsus. Usually that's at least Chunin level. Impressive, but not impressive enough. Hiashi says, flickering behind Sasuke and locking up the boy's chakra points. Oh, Sasuke cries out in pain. You are brave, strong for your age too. Your instinct was to protect her at all costs. You'll be worthy of her one day, when you've grown smarter and have learned not to pick a fight you can't win. He whispers into his ear just before Sasuke lost consciousness. Sasuke. Hinata yells and rushes over to try to help her teammate. Hiashi. I can't believe you just attacked a student of mine. I am going to speak to the third Hokage about this. You will be sanctioned. Despicable. Iruka yells. He challenged me. Hiashi states. And you challenged me, by attacking one of my students. Iruka roars. You are no match for me in battle and we both know this. Hiyashi says unfazed. Iruka might not be. But would you like to test your luck against me? That is my charge that you just attacked. Kakashi seethes. Kakashi, you saw what he did. He challenged me. He bit off more than he could chew. He will be fine in a few hours. Hiyashi assures him. The same can't be said for you. Kakashi says and charges up a Chidori. Sasuke, wake up. Hinata cries over his unconscious form. It was at that moment that Sarutobi walks in. He blinks. The third Hokage saw an unconscious Sasuke, with Hinata crying over him. Kakashi looked like he was about to strike Hiyashi with a Chidori and Hiyashi seemed ready to throw a 64 palm technique at Kakashi. Everyone calm down and tell me what happened. He says and walks over, checking Sasuke's pulse. He'll be fine. He assures Hinata kindly, who sniffles and nods. It seems an accident occurred. Sasuke was knocked into Hinata and they fell onto the ground together in what seemed to be a kiss. The boy challenged my authority as a father. He needed to be punished. His Sharingan activated. Hiyashi adds as an afterthought. Hiyashi, you attacked a child? I am disappointed in you. You are off duty for a month until you learn to cool your temper. Kakashi, lower your Chidori. I won't have you attacking another leaf ninja, as pleased as I am to see that you are so protective of your charge. I will speak to Sasuke when he awakens about giving proper respect to his elders. He says, very well. Iruka says, glad the situation seemed to be diffused for now. He deserves more than a Chidori. That was cowardly. He's not even a genin. Kakashi glares at Hiyashi. He's able to use the Sharingan and fire jutsus. He might be an academy student, but he is at the very least Chunin level. Hiyashi defends himself. That is not for you to decide. The third reminds him. Of course, Lord Hokage. Hiyashi mutters and bows his head in a gesture of respect. Hinata, are you alright? The Hokage asks. I think so. She says and is still basically covering Sasuke with her body protectively and glancing nervously at her father. First kisses are usually less traumatic. Kakashi muses. Come Hinata, we are going home. Hiyashi orders. I want to stay until He wakes up. It's my fault he's hurt. She says. Hinata, it is not your fault. It was his own decision to challenge me. He will have to deal with the consequences. The older Hyuga says. Because he read to make me feel better. He wouldn't have challenged you otherwise. She mumbles. That is true, but you had no way of knowing that. He will be fine. Come, he says. I'm staying, she says more firmly. Hiyashi raises his eyebrow. Hinata had never defied him before. He understood that she felt guilty. But still this was unexpected. He was unsure of how to deal with this show of defiance. The Hyuga patriarch had been hoping the girl would begin to show more of a backbone. He just didn't think when she developed it, she would attempt to use it against him. Hinata, I asked what's wrong. And I'm not going to let you stare at your feet again. You're a Hyuga. You come from a noble clan. You should be proud of that and hold your head high, not be looking at your feet all the time. Sasuke's words replayed in her head. Instinctively, she knew that her father's gaze was his way of trying to stare her down. He expected her to go with him. But she couldn't just leave Sasuke laying unconscious like this. She meets his gaze. She expected to see fury in her father's eyes, not pride. She meets his gaze with determination and confusion. Very well. You may stay until he wakes. Afterwards you are to come home, immediately after. Do I make myself clear? Hiyashi asks Hinata. Yes, father. She says and bows her head respectfully. Good. Lord Hokage, I deeply apologize for this unpleasantness. He says. You are still not going on any missions for a month. But it is over now. The third replies. I understand and accept my punishment, Lord Hokage. Hiyashi says. He deserves a Chidori in the nuts, not a vacation. Kakashi scoffs. Kakashi, I understand you are upset because your charge was attacked, but please do try to conduct yourself with more composure. The elderly man says. Yes, Lord Hokage. Kakashi says and bows his head. Let's get him to the hospital. The third states. Kakashi nods and scoops up Sasuke. He smiles reassuringly at Hinata. Hinata follows after Kakashi. The third shakes his head in amusement. Well, he hadn't seen this coming. But it was good that Sasuke was capable of feeling protective. It meant he cared. That meant that the massacre hadn't destroyed his ability to form bonds. Granted, he never expected it to be with the sweet, shy Hyuga girl. But still it was a good sign. Sasuke had actually been willing to go head-to-head with Hiyashi Hyuga. Sarutobi knew many jonins that were not brave or foolish enough to do this. Honestly, he was impressed. It did raise interesting questions though. What would happen if the two bloodlines were mixed? Perhaps one would be recessive. Maybe some of the children would have Sharingans and others Byakugans. Could it form a new trait entirely? Maybe the children would display the Sharingan in one eye and the Byakugan in another. He tried to tell himself he was being a bit silly here. They were only 12, but he remembered that Kushina and Minato had bonded rather young. It wasn't unheard of in the Leaf for romantic relationships to have their foundations in childhood. Oh well, time would tell. He's going to be alright. He just got the wind knocked out of him. Yes, I'll let him know you all stopped by. I'll make sure he gets all the flowers, cards, and get well wishes. Kakashi informs the gaggle of almost teenage girls that had flocked to the hospital once they realized that Sasuke was sick. The bastard has always been popular with the girls. Naruto says and proves once again that he had a knack for stating the obvious. So I see. Kakashi agrees and finally, manages to shoo them all away. Well, all except for one. Hinata, who was normally such a skittish little thing, gave Kakashi a look that dared him to try to move her. Poor girl probably felt guilty. It wasn't her fault that Hiyashi and Sasuke had butted heads. Naturally, though, she was going to blame herself. How is he? The copycat ninja asks one of the medics. Oh, he'll be fine. I expect he'll wake up any moment now. Hiyashi didn't go full out. He just wanted to prove a point. The medic reassures the concerned guardian. And I'll prove a point by chodoring his nuts off. Kakashi mutters under his breath. Oh. Sasuke mutters and winces as his eyes open. Sasuke. Hinata says and clings to him. Bastard. You're alright? Naruto darts over and gives Sasuke a bone-crushing hug. Oh. Naruto, I can't breathe. Sasuke says and his face starts to turn blue. Oh sorry. I'm just really glad you're alright. Naruto says and lets Sasuke go. And the rest of our class was really worried about you. Hinata says as she gestures at the gifts. They were worried over nothing. You okay? He asks her. I'm Fin-E. I was worried about you. It was really scary when you fell like that. She says. Sasuke was pretty sure he lost major cool points for getting his ass handed to him by Hiyashi. But this seemed countered by Hinata's concern for him. Maybe he should go for sympathy kisses? Nah, Uchihas didn't need pity to get kisses. Yeah, it wasn't much fun for me either. Sasuke admits. A few days later, Naruto had graduated. He hadn't been able to produce a shadow clone at the test. But he had found a forbidden scroll and the truth about why he had been a pariah. It was because inside him he possessed the nine-tails fox. That explained so much. Anyway, since he could now spam shadow clones like nobody's business, he graduated. Naruto had actually been in the middle of the pack as far as exam results went. It was just if you couldn't do shadow clones, you couldn't graduate. It was considered a vital skill to have. The blonde had always done well on physical tests, minus the shadow clones. His test scores were on the weaker side, but decent enough to squeak by. This was mostly thanks to Sasuke egging him on until the blonde had to hit the scrolls and passed. Otherwise Sasuke wouldn't let him live it down. The youngest Uchiha pawned Naruto's struggle with academics down to a really bad case of ADHD. Team 7 will consist of Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto Uzumaki, and Hinata Hyuga. Iruka reads off. Yay, bastard. We get to be on the same team. Oh, and Hinata's nice. This will be great. Naruto says. Sasuke merely nods. He didn't want to seem too happy about it. Naruto still didn't know why he and Hiyashi had come to blows exactly. He knew that in Kakashi's words, Hiyashi had been a prick, but not why. The blonde would never let Sasuke live it down if he found out about the kiss. But on the inside, inner Sasuke was doing a happy dance. Later that day, they were all waiting for Kakashi. Sasuke and Naruto had lived with the pervert since they were 7. So they knew what to expect. Hinata was a bit nervous though and kept glancing at the clock. Kakashi was late, as was usual. He's never on time. Don't worry about it, Naruto says cheerfully. What's he like? She asks. Kakashi is cool. He pretty much lets us do what we want. He's always late and a major pervert though. I'm kinda surprised they let a girl be placed on his squad. Naruto muses. You idiot. Don't tell her that. Besides, there is always one girl and two boys on every squad. Kakashi's a pervert, but he wouldn't look at someone our age like that. Sasuke says, and a vein twitches in his forehead showing his annoyance. Oh, that doesn't sound too bad. She mumbles. Hinata tries not to look at Sasuke too much. She really didn't know how she was supposed to act around him now. It had been an accident to start with. But at the end, he had been kissing her for real. The only boy that had ever showed any interest in her, had gotten knocked unconscious by her father. He probably hated her now. Loser, what are you doing? Sasuke asks as he sees Naruto placing a bucket over the door. That will teach him not to be late. I mean, it's one thing to do it to us. We are used to it. But Hinata shouldn't be made to wait around all day. He says and laughs. He's a jonin. He's not going to fall for that. Sasuke mutters. Hinata privately agreed with Sasuke. However, she decided not to say anything about this matter. It wasn't important. She didn't want her teammates to feel like she was playing favorites. Kakashi comes in. The bucket falls and he gets hit with a dirty eraser. Sasuke blinks. He actually fell for it. Naruto. Kakashi growls. That's for making Hinata wait. It's one thing to do it to me and Sasuke, but come on. Hinata isn't used to your weirdness. He says. He's got a point. Sasuke concedes. Anyway, come on. I'm going to take you to the training field. Kakashi says. The three genin follow their sensei. They all sit down. Kakashi shakes his head. He wasn't entirely certain how to manage this. He lived with 2 out of 3 of his students. It'd be impossible to be completely unbiased. He had to try though. Well, why don't we start by introducing ourselves more? I'll go first. My name is Kakashi. I like a lot of things. I dislike a lot of things. My hobbies and dreams I don't really feel like telling you. He says cheerfully. Hinata blinks. Well, that was a whole lot of nothing. Still, she didn't want to insult her new sensei, so she remains quiet. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I love ramen. I dislike the 3 minutes it takes to make it. My dream is to become Hokage. He says. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I like my perverted guardian. Naruto, even though he's a loser. Training, tomatoes, and Hinata. Not in that order. I dislike a lot of things, particularly fangirls and sweets. I don't want to say a dream, because I will make it a reality. I'm going to kill a certain someone and restore my clan. He finishes. Well, that's progress. Normally he goes into brooding mode much sooner. Kakashi says cheerfully. Sasuke twitches at Kakashi. How dare he ruin his badass image? He should smack him or shove a fireball down his pants. Hinata, your turn. Kakashi says kindly. Okay. My name is Hinata Hyuga. I like swimming, pressing flowers, cinnamon rolls, and my new team. I dislike feeling helpless. My goal is to make my father proud of me. She finishes shyly. Very good, Hinata. Kakashi nods encouragingly. Now for your test. If you fail this, you go back to the academy. You have to get a bell by the time the sun goes down. He explains. But there are 3 of us and only 1 BL, Kakashi-sensei. Hinata points out. Exactly. Kakashi says. Sasuke doesn't waste any time. He hurls a fireball jutsu at Kakashi. Naruto got the impression that bastard was annoyed by that brooding crack. Whatever. It was totally accurate. Most of the time, Sasuke was cool. He was the brother Naruto never had. But once he got into one of his moods, as Naruto called it, there was no talking to the guy. Aren't you eager today? Kakashi teases. Honestly, the silver-haired ninja was unsure if Sasuke was still sore about the brooding crack or if he was just showing off for Hinata. While Sasuke had stolen his book and seemed more than eager to learn about the finer points clan restoration, he had shown almost no interest in girls otherwise. I'm getting a bell, he informs him. This was shame because Kakashi probably could have started a sweets shop with all the chocolate and other goodies Sasuke's admirers gave him. Most boys his age would have killed to be in such a position. But Sasuke didn't seem to return any of his classmates' affection. He was polite of course, but never interested. We'll see about that, Kakashi replies. Kakashi had begun to wonder if maybe Sasuke was just interested in older girls. Well, he had been until the kissing interest. No one challenged a man like Hiyashi Hyuga if there weren't real feelings there. He knew pride was certainly a factor, but that wasn't all of it. Sasuke smirks. Naruto tackles Kakashi from behind. They had decided to use the flash and dash technique. Sasuke would flash a fireball and distract the opponent. Naruto would dash in and tackle. Not bad. Good teamwork, Kakashi says and turns into a log. Byakugan. Hinata calls out and looks around for their sensei. Sasuke races over to Hinata. Her eyes were just going to find Kakashi faster than his were. He wasn't sure what her range was, but he figured it was more than enough for this close-range combat. Over there, she mumbles, but doesn't point. If she pointed, Kakashi would pick up on it. He'd move. Sasuke nods at Naruto. For some strange reason, he raised his ring finger. It seemed to mean something to Naruto because he forms a hell of a lot of shadow clones. Hinata looks at Sasuke in confusion. Code. He answers and heads off to join Naruto, producing a few clones of his own. The two boys are, 200 depending on how you looked at it, attack their guardian. Hinata blinks. Her teammates were, to put it mildly, rather determined. Their hits for the most part were rather crude compared to the grace of the Jonin, but that was only to be expected. She takes a deep breath and runs over, joining them. Kakashi was outnumbered. He of course could have made his own clones. But he was mostly happy they were working together. He was surprised when Hinata entered the giant dog pile though. Sasuke took advantage of this and grabbed the damn bells. Only 2 bells. Kakashi reminds him. Sasuke frowns. He tosses one to Naruto. Naruto had to go on. He was just starting to gain some measure of acceptance, at least with their peers. Being sent back to the academy would be the ultimate humiliation for him. He couldn't do that to his best friend. He walks over to Hinata and places the bell in her hand. He couldn't do it to Hinata either. She wanted to make her father proud. While he personally didn't think that Hiashi's opinion mattered in the slightest, it mattered to Hinata. Sasuke was at the top of their class in the academy. No one was going to think he was sent back because of a lack of skill. He'd just explain about the bell test. It'd be annoying to lose a year. But he'd just move on next time. Kakashi would still train him. Besides, the first year of being a genin was a waste in his opinion anyway. Mostly it was babysitting, chasing stray animals, training, and doing other low-level work. He'd probably benefit more from pushing his limits training on his own than chasing after stray cats. Sasuke, I couldn't take your bell. Hinata mumbles. It's fine. You need it more than I do. He tells her. Yo, bastard. Are you out of your mind? No way am I leaving you behind. No way am I leaving Hinata behind either. Naruto says. Loser, it's fine. You've worked too hard for this. I can just go again next year. It'll be boring at the academy, but it's not a big deal. Sasuke tells him. You pass. You are all more concerned about your teammates than yourselves. Kakashi says. We passed. Naruto yells excitedly. Hinata smiles, and Sasuke gives a small smile. Hinata, if you like you can head home and tell your family the good news. It's late. Kakashi says. Thank you, Kakashi-sensei. She says with a bright smile and runs off. Let's head home, Kakashi says. Naruto and Sasuke follow their guardian. Kakashi hadn't formally adopted them. But more or less everyone considered him to be their father and them to be basically brothers in all but blood and law. He had offered at one point to make it official. But Sasuke remembered his biological father. He felt like it would be a betrayal. Naruto didn't have such a hang-up. But he didn't want to get adopted, if Sasuke wasn't. Besides, it was as little weird to call someone only 14 years older than you, Dad. Kakashi understood their reasoning. It did hurt a bit. But he got over it quickly. They lived with him. He took care of them. They might as well have been his sons. The silver-haired ninja decided he probably wasn't going to have children of his own. Naruto and Sasuke were too much of a handful as it was sometimes. But he wouldn't trade them for the world. Alright, Naruto yells excitedly and races off ahead of him. Kakashi knew that the blonde would do this. He was counting on it really. He needed to speak with Sasuke privately and this provided the perfect opportunity. Sasuke, that was a very nice thing you did for Hinata. You were actually willing to go back to the academy for her. Naruto, I understand the two of you are like brothers. But for someone you barely know, that was quite generous. He begins. Don't try your mind games on me. I'm not going to fall for it. Sasuke says as he walks alongside him. My mind games? Fall for what exactly? He muses. You're trying to get me to tell you how I feel about Hinata. You're concerned I'll try something on a mission because I liked kissing her. He says and then curses. Damn you Kakashi. Fuck, he'd walked right into that one. Think Sasuke. Think, he needed to do damage control right now. So perhaps Hiashi had a reason to be so concerned. So you enjoyed kissing her. Kakashi says in that damn cheerful, smug voice that made Sasuke want to throttle him. It's really none of your business. Sasuke scoffs. Sasuke, I am your guardian and your sensei. I'm also Hinata's sensei. If something is going on between my students that might affect their ability to perform as a team, it is my business. That and because I care about you. He says, it's not going to affect our ability to perform as a team. Sasuke assures him. Good. Did she kiss back? Kakashi asks. Sasuke goes silent. I'll take that as a no. She was likely just in shock. I doubt it reflects negatively on your kissing abilities in the slightest. He says and actually pats Sasuke on the back. Fireball jutsu. Sasuke yells and sets Kakashi's Jonin vest on fire for revenge. Tisk, tisk. Sasuke, do you think me an amateur? I understood what I was getting into when I took you in. I knew your clan was associated with fire and had all my clothes made fireproof. He says happily. Damn it, Sasuke growls. This is actually quite the milestone. Your first crush. He muses. It's not a crush. I just like the way her lips felt against mine and she tastes like watermelon. He says and mumbles the second part so quietly that Kakashi wasn't sure if he actually heard it or imagined it. Watermelon? Could just be a lip gloss. He states as if pondering it. It wasn't lip gloss. That was just her. Sasuke says. He didn't know how he knew this. He just did. Besides, Hinata was so shy. He highly doubted she wore any makeup, even one as modest as lip gloss. How romantic. You are becoming quite the little Romeo. Standing up against her father, offering her your slot, and making cute little statements such as that. Adorable really. Kakashi observes. If you call me adorable again, you better hope you fireproofed your nuts. Sasuke hisses. That's my boy. He says and messes up Sasuke's hair. Sasuke glares at Kakashi. Kakashi was impressed. Sasuke certainly had mastered the death glare. He decides not to embarrass him further for tonight anyway. They follow Naruto home. Kakashi goes to order them takeout. Naruto and Sasuke are in their room. Sasuke sensed a disturbance in the force. Naruto was going to do or say something stupider than usual. The youngest Uchiha had developed a sixth sense about these things. So, why'd Hiashi do that to you anyway? Naruto asks. It's a long story. Let me summarize. He is a dick. Sasuke states. Oh come on. I'm your best friend. You can tell me. The blonde says. I'd rather not have you blab it all over the village. You suck at keeping secrets. Sasuke replies. Aha. So there is a secret. The blonde exclaims, sounding very proud of himself for figuring this out. Not really. It was an accident, Sasuke says. If it was an accident, why'd he knock you out? The blue-eyed ninja asks. Well, I was talking to Hinata. She was worried about living up to her father's expectations after graduation. Then some idiot fell into me. So I fell on top of her. It looked like we were kissing when Iruka found us. So he called Hiashi and Kakashi in. Hiashi and I got into a fight over the fact that he is a lousy father. Sasuke summarizes. Oh, that would do it. Wait, so you two kissed? He demands to know and his eyes were wide. Sorta. It was an accident. More like our lips touched. Sasuke partially lies. His lips had done more touching than Hinata's. But she hadn't kissed back. So he didn't know whether or not to count it as a real kiss. She hadn't told him to stop either. It was all really confusing. If your lips touched, then it's a kiss. Naruto states firmly. I guess? Sasuke doesn't sound so convinced. So do you like her? Naruto asks. Of course I like her. She's nice. She's quiet. She doesn't stalk me. Sasuke answers. I mean as more than a friend. The blonde continues. Don't make this a bigger thing than it is. I had to kill Itachi before I could even think about getting a girlfriend. Sasuke warns the blonde. Aha, but that means you do like her. You just want to kill that bastard first. Probably to protect her. That's unexpected sweet of you bastard. Naruto observes. You are such a loser. That is not what I said. Sasuke says and chucks a pillow at him. Meanwhile, Hinata had gotten home. She informed her father that she had passed. He merely nodded his head. She sighs, she had wanted more acknowledgement. Well, at least Kakashi-sensei seems nice. Naruto and Sasuke don't seem to mind that I was put on their team. She says happily and prepares for bed. Speaking of Sasuke, she touches her lips. They still had a tingly sensation. It had started off an accident. But he had definitely been kissing her towards the end. She had been so shocked she had frozen. She should have kissed him back, stopped him, or done something other than just lay there. He'd actually gone up against her father too. She'd never seen anyone challenge Hiyashi. Granted, he ended up in the hospital, but it was the thought that counted. Sasuke had been willing to go back to the academy for her as well. Did he actually like her? No one's ever noticed me before, besides them. She mumbles. By them, she meant Naruto and Sasuke. They had saved her from some bullies when she was a small child. It was just Naruto's nature to try to save the day. Sasuke was less predictable. But he tended to jump into the fray if someone was outnumbered or he didn't perceive it as a fair fight. What he considered a fair fight was more flexible than Naruto though. Did he like her or had he just kissed her on instinct? Maybe she could even paw it off to curiosity. If he did like her, did she like him? She'd never really thought about boys that way before. She knew that he was considered cute by the other girls. He was definitely strong. He was smart, but he'd always seemed so separated from his classmates. Oh, he was polite, but there was a great distance there. She figured it was because of the massacre. Honestly, it was a wonder that Naruto was as close to Sasuke as he was. Sasuke seemed to keep people at an arm's length. Should I say something to him? She mumbles as she gets into bed. She shakes her head. No, it would just make things awkward between them. They were teammates now. Besides, what was she going to say? She didn't even know what she did or didn't want at this point. Now that she was over the shock of the fact that he had actually kissed her, she knew she had liked it. At least physically, it had felt very nice. But that didn't necessarily mean he wanted her to be his girlfriend. Did Uchihas even date? Hey, Hinata, what do you got there? Naruto asks curiously. Oh, it's the team album that I made. Hinata says with a smile. They'd been on the same team for 3 years. Somewhere along the way, Hinata had almost successfully vanquished her stutter. It still showed up now and then when she was extremely flustered, but overall it was gone. Her male teammates, including Kakashi, were proud of her for this. Can I see? Naruto asks. Sure, it's not much. Just some pictures and keepsakes. She warns him. Hinata smiles. She was lucky that she had 2 teammates she got along with. Naruto was by far the more friendly and chattier of the 2 boys. But Sasuke was the more serious of the 2 and the most helpful when it came to training. He never went easy on her. It was at this point that Sasuke and Kakashi came back, carrying the food. They had successfully completed their mission. It was a simple mission. Team 7 had to deliver some scrolls to another ninja village. The scrolls were all about trade and other economical matters. They had stopped in a little civilian village on the way home to get some hot food. Ninja rations got you through the day, but they weren't exactly tasty. If the loser gets to see whatever it is, I want to see it. Sasuke states as he hands Hinata her cinnamon rolls. Hinata smiles and takes them. She felt her face heating up slightly. Sasuke's kindness was more subtle than Naruto. But he clearly remembered her favorite food and got it for her. It was a sweet, subtle gesture. You are such a bastard sometimes. You know that, right Sasuke? Naruto huffs. Yes, I know. Sasuke smirks. Here's your ramen, Naruto. Kakashi says and hands the blonde his food. Thanks, Kakashi-sensei. At least you are nice, unlike the bastard over here. Naruto glares at him. Kakashi by this point, was used to Naruto and Sasuke's antics. This type of bickering was a standard part of daily life on Team 7. Even Hinata was used to it. The Bluenet no longer tried to break up their fights. Some things never change. He chuckles. Kakashi really wished that the academy would make more efforts to increase recruiting amongst girls. It was just a fact of life for as long as he could remember that the boys always outnumbered the girls by a 2-to-1 margin. It wasn't that the academy discouraged girls. It would accept any that would apply. It was just families were very reluctant to send their daughters off to be ninjas, knowing that if they got pregnant their ninja careers were generally over. Did the Leaf force women to retire from ninja duty after having children? No, of course not. It allowed at least a year of paid maternity leave. They took the average yearly income of the woman from the past 5 years, or however long she'd been on duty, if she was still a new ninja, and gave her that for the maternity year. There was no way they could allow a pregnant woman to go on missions, and they gave her 3 months to bond with her new baby, or babies if she had twins, triplets, etc. Most female ninjas generally just chose to retire from active duty after they had a kid. They wanted to be around to see their child, Ren, grow up. Kakashi was sure that ninja fathers experienced a similar drive, but for some reason were less likely to retire from active duty. "Thank you, Sasuke," Hinata mumbles as she lets the boys see the book. Honestly, it almost never failed. If you put 2 teenage boys together with a teenage girl, a love triangle was the result 9 times out of 10. Thankfully, for Kakashi's sanity, Naruto didn't appear to have any feelings for Hinata beyond friendship. Hinata definitely enjoyed Naruto's company, but it was all on a very innocent level. "Anytime," he says and looks over her shoulder at the book, alongside Naruto. Sasuke was another matter entirely. Kakashi wasn't sure how deep his feelings for the Hyuga heiress were. But they were there. At the very least, it was a long-lasting crush. Was it actually love? He didn't know. The youngest Uchiha had kept his word though. Whatever his feelings were for Hinata, they didn't negatively impact their missions. Sasuke could be very professional when he wanted to be. It was mostly little things that let Kakashi know something was going on. Sasuke had a good memory. He clearly remembered their introductions that day, as evidenced by him fetching Hinata cinnamon rolls without her asking for them. He trained with her harder than Naruto did. Kakashi wasn't sure what ideas Fugaku had instilled in that boy about dealing with the opposite. But apparently the whole don't hit girls thing, that had been skipped over. He played rougher with Hinata than Naruto did. Naruto was reluctant to seriously train with Hinata. He didn't want to hurt her. Kakashi couldn't help but remember the first time his boys, as he called them, had trained with Hinata. Warning: training flashback. Skip if you only want gentle Sasuke. Don't be scared. I'm not going to hurt you. We are just gonna practice throwing some punches and stuff. I won't go all out. Naruto promised Hinata. Okay, Hinata had said. Kakashi saw Sasuke roll his eyes from nearby. Clearly the Uchiha was not impressed by his brother's reassurances to Hinata. Sasuke was going to do something stupid. Yup, he did something stupid alright. He attacked Hinata with the lion's barrage, while Naruto was talking to her. It was brutal. Hinata was not a violent person by nature. She definitely wasn't prepared for the intensity Sasuke's kicks and punches. "Sasuke!" She cries out in pain when one of the hits connects with her shoulder. "If you want the pain to stop, learn how to block," he tells her as he continues his barrage. "Kakashi-sensei, do something. He's hurting Hinata." Naruto cried out. Yes, he's hurting her. But in the long run he's helping her. I don't like seeing her in pain any more than you do, Naruto. But he is right. Enemy ninjas aren't going to go easy any of you. So it is best you train to your full potential. Kakashi says. Whack, smack, bam. Sasuke was relentless. Hinata was starting to get some black and blur marks. Oh yeah, she was going to have bruises. Slowly but surely though, a few of the hits didn't land. She started block about as many of the hits as were getting through. Hinata's Byakugan activated and it looked like she was getting angry about her teammates' rough treatment of her. She locks up his chakra. Aw fuck. Sasuke winces and falls off her. So RRY Sasuke. I had to. It hurt too much. Hinata says as she gets up. Don't apologize for winning. He says. So it's over? You won't hit me anymore? She asks. Not today. You got better. I just couldn't stand to see that loser babying you. You aren't weak. He shouldn't treat you like you are. Sasuke states. I don't think she's weak. Hinata's really strong. I just don't like beating up girls like you bastard. Naruto scoffs. Idiot. Do you think the fact she's a girl is going to protect her when we are out on missions? Sasuke growls at him. This isn't a mission. This is just training. Naruto snaps back. Kakashi. Smack some sense into the loser. Hinata. I have some pain medicine in my pouch, if you want it. I'm sorry that I hurt you. He murmurs. It was genuine concern. Sasuke's way of expressing affection was strange. But it was real. He would rather hurt Hinata himself now and force her to get stronger, than risk her not being prepared on the field. Ending of training scene. Oh look, there's us on our first day as a team. Naruto says happily. Yeah, Sasuke says and looks at it. Hinata was smiling shyly. Kakashi was messing up both Kakashi and Sasuke's hair with a fond smile underneath his mask. This had earned a death glare from Sasuke and a glower from Naruto. Your hair was shorter back then. Naruto says to Hinata. Yeah, do you think I should cut it? She asks, as it had now grown to her back. No, Sasuke says. Whoa, bastard. Didn't know you cared so much about hair. I guess it makes sense. You must spend hours in the bathroom primping. How the hell do you and Kakashi get your hair to stand that way anyway? Naruto asks. I do not primp. It's naturally spiky. Sasuke says and twitches. Oh come, I can just imagine you in the bathroom, getting your feathers ready like a peacock. Can't argue with the results. Definitely gets the girl's attention. He chimes happily. Sorry about this Hinata. Sasuke mutters and he takes one of the cinnamon rolls, hurling it at Naruto's head. Oh, you are such a bastard. If they knew how abusive you were, they wouldn't chase you so much. Naruto whines. Kakashi just shakes his head in amusement. He heads over. The silver-haired ninja was a little curious to see what Hinata had put together. What's that white and red flower supposed to represent? Kakashi asks. Oh, that's from our mission in the land of the waves. Hinata says. That's not a naturally white and red flower, is it? It's stained with blood? He inquires. Yes, I found it, after Sasuke woke up. It should have gotten crushed, but it didn't. So I thought it was like our team. So we should keep it. She explains. Ah, I see, fitting. Hinata frowns looking at the flower. She'd almost lost one of her most precious people that day. She'd come to care about all her teammates and Kakashi-sensei. But Sasuke was always special. He was the only person who had ever challenged her father and actually lived to tell the tale. The battle had been raging for a while. Hinata, Sasuke, and Naruto were trapped inside Haku's ice mirrors. All of them looked like human pincushions at this point. Haku had been about to finish Hinata off. But Sasuke had shoved her to the ground and protected her from the brunt of the seemingly lethal attack. That had set Naruto off. He had gone Kyuubi, as Hinata would later come to call it. She had watched Sasuke die in her arms. It was all her fault. Her teammate had died because she was too weak and Naruto might die too. Somehow, they managed to defeat the Mist Ninjas. As much as she wanted to, she couldn't hate Haku. She knew why he did what he did and he had moved on to the next life with his master. She sobs, wishing that Sasuke hadn't as well. He was so young. Bastard. Wake up. Wake up. He had cried desperately and shook his brother in an effort to wake him. Sasuke remained unresponsive. Hinata hugged him tightly. That's when she heard a groan of pain. She had shoved a few of the needles in deeper, but it had woken him. Sasuke. She and Naruto yelled out at the same time. I didn't really think I was going to die, did you? He asked smugly, though the effect was ruined when he coughed up blood. They had all been rushed to the nearest hospital. It was not a fun day for Hinata. Getting hundreds of needles yanked out of you was not a pleasant experience. She seriously didn't recommend it. But it didn't matter though. Sasuke and Naruto were okay. They were all okay. Hinata continues showing them more of the scrapbook. Naruto was busy with his ramen and only half paying attention. Kakashi occasionally looked, but mostly was focused on his own book. Sasuke though, sat behind her and listened to her explanations. He didn't say much, but she knew that he was paying attention. There was a quiet attentiveness about him. She smiles and leans back against him. He wasn't exactly holding her. But it was sorta close. Sasuke was always warm. He told her once that Uchihas were naturally a degree or two warmer than most people. Something to do with their fire affinity. So you really don't think I should cut it again? She asks curiously. No, keep it long. He informs her with such a seriousness that it made her giggle. Why does it matter? She asks. When it gets long, that means you lived long enough for it to grow out. That and it just looks better this way. He answered. Those were true, but they weren't all of his reasoning to prefer Hinata with longer hair. His mother had had long silky hair like Hinata's, only hers had been black instead of blue. He liked the way Hinata's hair felt. He took every chance he could to run his fingers through her hair during training. He made it look like accidents of course, but he liked the way it felt. That and the thought of pulling her hair during certain activities that damn book had listed was appealing. Alright, I'll keep it long then. She says. Good. he replies. Sasuke wasn't 12 anymore. He understood what he felt now. It was lust and affection. Maybe even love. He didn't know. He'd never been in romantic love before, so how would he know? He did know one thing though. It was far more than he felt for any of the other girls in the village. Sasuke wanted her. She was like a balm on her soul. She was so kind and gentle. But there was a fierce determination to prove herself that he could relate to. He had once wanted to make his father proud more than anything. And yeah, the fact that she had blossomed a lot more than the other girls and had a curvy figure, that helped too. Sasuke? Hinata asks. What is it? The youngest Uchiha replies. Your Sharingan is on again. You should probably have Kakashi-sensei have a look at you. She says in concern. God damn it, not again. Kakashi had explained to him what this meant a couple years ago. The Sharingan could be triggered by strong emotions. That was usually anger or loss, but apparently lust could also do the trick. Thankfully, Hinata seemed oblivious to that fact. Otherwise things would have gotten awkward and quickly. Yeah, I'll have him look at it. He agrees. Hinata shivers a bit. He was doing it again. She wasn't sure why, but sometimes his Sharingan would activate at random. He was normally looking at her intensely when it happened. She didn't think that Sasuke was mad at her. Sasuke, when he got angry, wasn't the type to be subtle about it. But something was definitely going on. Well, we should get home, Kakashi says cheerfully. Team 7 heads back to the village. When they get there, Sasuke enters his district. He blinks when he noticed that he had a messenger hawk sitting on his windowsill. Here boy, Sasuke says and reaches for the scroll, while giving the hawk a treat for his troubles. To Sasuke Uchiha, I would like to speak with you as soon as possible. If you are free at 8 p.m. this evening, meet me at the training grounds. If not, respond back with a more favorable time. Hiyashi Hyuga, clan head of the Hyugas. Damn it, he growls. He knew he would have to deal with Hiyashi sooner or later. He sighs. Well, he might as well get it over with. He heads to the training grounds. I am pleased you could make it. Hiyashi says. Can we skip the pleasantries? What did you want? Sasuke asks. Always so direct. Very well. I am aware of what has been going on during your missions. He says. I didn't touch her, other than training. Sasuke protests. Yes, I know that. If you had, you would be on your knees. I knew your father, fairly well actually. I'm aware of all the things that can trigger your Sharingan. He states bluntly. Sasuke wins. Shit, this was bad. Hopefully, he hadn't told Hinata. Sasuke doubted it. Hinata would have been blushing or avoiding him. She had seemed to be her normal self on their missions. I haven't told her. I'd rather protect her innocence as long as possible. He says. Oh, good. Sasuke says. If you try to seduce her, I will find out about it. I dislike her being away from home, with a man who clearly has desires for her. I dislike the situation, but I am also aware that no one will fight harder to protect her than someone who is in love with her. I consider it only proper to warn you, if you do manage to seduce her, you are marrying her. My clan is a proper one. We do not believe in engaging in such activities with anyone who isn't our intended or our spouse. He warns him. You're right, I'm going to protect her. But there is no trying involved. After I kill Itachi, we are going to be together. I'm well aware of your clan's old-fashioned views on love and duality. I'm going to marry her anyway. So your threats have no bite to them. Go bark at someone who gives a damn. Sasuke growls. I think sometimes because of your gifts, you forget how to address your superiors. Hiyashi observes. I'm not talking to a superior. I'm talking to you. Sasuke snaps. I do like your spirit. But I am not going to tolerate such disrespect much longer. Must I send you to the hospital again? He asks. I'm not the same kid anymore. If you try that again, it will be you that ends up in the hospital. Sasuke tells him. And if you continue to threaten my student, it will be by my hand. Kakashi warns him, flickering in behind Hiyashi's back. Kakashi, always a pleasure. Hiyashi says bitingly. Oh yes, how are this fine day? Kakashi says as he holds a kunai to the back of Hiyashi's neck. Well, I was just explaining things to Sasuke. He's a bright boy. I'm sure he will catch on quickly. Hiyashi says. Oh, I'm sure that Sasuke already thought of all those issues you raised long before now. Did you know that he read one of Jiraiya's books when he was 12? It was my fault. I shouldn't have left it out. Trust me, there is nothing you have to say to him that he doesn't already know. He says a little too cheerfully. A loud thud is heard. Hiyashi had fainted. Sasuke blinks and pokes him with a stick. Yeah, it seemed Kakashi hadn't lost his touch. You really have to teach me how you do that one day. Sasuke muses. Oh, it's quite simple. Most people are rather bashful when it comes to anything ally related being discussed. This is particularly true for a man like Hiyashi. He's so cold. It still amazes me that he has 2 daughters. Kakashi says and offers his hand to Sasuke. He really is such an ice dick. Sasuke smirks and takes his guardian's hand, teleporting home with him. Sasuke, be nice to your future father-in-law. Kakashi chuckles. How much did you overhear? He asks. All of it. I saw the messenger hawk leaving and you forgot to destroy the scroll. So I read it and arrived shortly after you did. The copycat ninja admits. You know it's not polite to spy on people. Sasuke admonishes him. It's also not polite to address your elders like you did with him. But that didn't stop you either. He points out. True, Sasuke says and heads into their house. Unbeknownst to them, they were being watched by a pair of crimson-red eyes. Itachi tilts his head. Well, that was unexpected. Well, that was unexpected. He mutters in amusement. Sasuke seemed to have a crush. The fact that it was on a Hyuga was an irony that Itachi could fully appreciate. The 2 clans had always had an unspoken rivalry. It was only natural considering they both had bloodlines related to their eyes and such drastically different lifestyles. He smiles. Truthfully, Itachi didn't expect Kakashi to take Sasuke in. But he had. It didn't really matter though. Sasuke was still doing exactly what he expected. Clearly he wanted to kill him. Then he could be seen as the hero and start off with a clean slate. He quickly takes his medication and heads off to join Kisame. He had appearances to keep up after all. Sasuke Uchiha was now 18 years old. This meant his life was getting a whole lot more annoying. Now he was technically old enough to get married. His fangirls were now the absolute bane of his existence. He should have told them all off years ago instead of politely humoring them. Take this morning for example. Oh Sasuke, you got a few things in the mail. Kakashi said and handed him a few packages and letters. Thanks, Sasuke replied and he opened one of the packages. He immediately shut it. He did not need Kakashi seeing that. He'd never let him hear the end of it. What is it? The silver-haired ninja asked. Nothing. It's stupid. Just more chocolates. Sasuke lied. If it was just chocolate, you wouldn't have closed it so fast. Let me see. He admonished Sasuke. No, it's my mail, so it's private. Buzz off. He warned Kakashi and scowled at his beloved guardian. Kakashi by now was immune to Sasuke's scowls. He grabs the box and looks inside. Inside was a pair of fuzzy pink handcuffs and a note. To my dearest Sasuke, I thought that you might be interested in trying these out with me. Well, that's quite the interesting offer. I must say it's a step above chocolates. Kakashi chuckled. It's not funny. Sasuke growled. Let's see what else you have here. He ignored Sasuke and opened another. Kakashi pulls out a red lacy lingerie set. He blinks. Damn, where were these girls when he was Sasuke's age? Stupid sluts. Sasuke sighed and smacked his forehead. Now, this is quite lovely lingerie. At least she has good taste. Kakashi defended the girl. Sasuke said and clearly he was unimpressed. Kakashi skimmed one of the letters. He blinked. Girl could give Jiraiya a good run for his money when it came to erotic literature. He was actually impressed. Well, that was interesting. He stated. Stop going through my mail, you damn pervert. Sasuke snarls. I am your guardian. It is my job to love, protect, and embarrass you. Going through your mail allows me to do all 3 at once. Think of it as multitasking. He chuckled. Damn, bastard. Kakashi is a freak. Did you see that? He's got fuzzy handcuffs and lingerie down there. Wonder when he got a girlfriend. The blonde muses. Yes he is. No idea. Sasuke lies. If Naruto wanted to believe that Kakashi had a girlfriend, let him. There was no way that he was going to tell the blonde the truth. His best friend would never let him live it down. Meanwhile, Hinata wasn't a happy camper to put it mildly. She tried to be nice to everyone as a general rule of thumb. Maybe she had been a little too nice. There was a Jonin who was hitting on her. Honestly, she was flattered at first. But she wasn't interested. She had politely tried to excuse herself from the conversation. But no dice. She sighs, she really hoped she wasn't going to have to actually hurt him. What's your hurry, gorgeous? He asks. My father wanted to have lunch together. I don't want to be late. She tells him. Aw, that's sweet. Daddy's little princess, huh? He questions. Not exactly. Hinata mutters. Well, if that's the case, wouldn't you have more fun with me? You can just send him a message. I'm sure he'll understand. I'm sure you will have way more fun with me than him. He says with a wink. No, you see he's very strict. He'll get upset. You wouldn't like my father when he's upset. She warns him. Oh, don't worry. I'll protect you. So what do you say we go back to my place and have some real fun? He continues. Back at Kakashi's bachelor pad, the copycat ninja noticed something. They were out of milk. He shakes his head. Sasuke, would you mind picking up some milk? I'd ask Naruto to do it, but I know he'd stop at the ramen shop. I'd rather not wait around all day to start on dinner. He explains. Kakashi had learned how to cook. He was far from a master chef. But now his food was edible. The silver-haired man usually cooked if Sasuke didn't feel like it. Considering how annoyed Sasuke had been at the gifts incident, Kakashi was positive that the Uchiha wasn't going to be in the mood to cook tonight. It was a pity. The boy really did know how to cook. If Sasuke ever retired from ninja life, he would easily be able to change professions. Well, in Kakashi's opinion anyway. Sure, Sasuke says and takes the money. He lazily stretches as he heads to the market. It was his nice day. He wasn't really in a rush. Kakashi could wait after he acted like such a prick this morning. Sasuke smirks. It'd be fun to make the older man wait on him for a change. That thought appealed to his more sadistic side greatly. He was walking by some of the booths at the market, when he caught a familiar flash of dark blue hair. Sasuke smiles. Well, maybe he could say hello to his beautiful teammate before grabbing the milk. That's when he overheard the conversation between her and another ninja, and Sasuke saw red. No, you see he's very strict. He'll get upset. You wouldn't like my father when he's upset. He overhears Hinata warn the other ninja. Sasuke had clearly missed the beginning of this conversation. But it didn't take a genius to figure out that Hinata was using her strict father as an excuse. Hinata was too nice to tell the guy to go fuck himself, that she wasn't interested. Oh, don't worry. I'll protect you. So what do you say we go back to my place and have some real fun? The Uchiha heard the other man suggest. I get that you are an idiot. But let me dumb it down for you, she's not interested. Sasuke says. Hey, stay out of this asshole. The man warns him, not bothering to look back to see who was addressing him. Afraid I can't do that. You see, that's my teammate you are you ally harassing. He informs him. The man freezes. Shit. Hinata's teammates were well known as being Naruto Uzumaki and Sasuke Uchiha. The man doubted that the lovable blonde idiot even knew what UAL harassment was. So that meant that he was dealing with Sasuke. He was so fucked. I was just trying to get to know her. You know, I wanted to become friends. He offers. Oh really? Well, that's great. It's important to make friends. Let me introduce to a new friend. He's called the Wall. Sasuke says, and he grabs the other man, hurling him straight into the wall. Aw fuck. The man cries out when he hits the wall with a loud crashing. His entire world was spinning. He wasn't sure if some bones had been crushed on the impact. But he wouldn't be surprised. He needed to get away from the Sasukes. Yes, that was Sasuke's plural. He was seeing double. Fuck. He probably had a concussion. Such language. You really shouldn't speak that way when a lady is present. Didn't your mother teach you any manners? Sasuke mocks, and he apparently wasn't done. He grabs the other man by the collar and slams him into the ground. Sasuke's Sharingan was whirling. He was pissed. Hinata watches the entire scene with wide eyes. Sasuke? She asks. Yes, Hinata? He asks as he slams his fist underneath the man's ribs, forcing him to cough up some blood. I think that he's met enough new friends today. The wall and ground, that's two. Maybe you should stop before he meets the third friend, Mr. Stretcher? She mumbles. I don't know. I think he should meet Mr. Stretcher. He's very friendly. Sasuke says. Sasuke. She says warningly. Alright, I think he got the point anyway. He's not worth dirtying my hands further. Sasuke states and tosses some money at the building's owner for repairs, with some extra for the hassle. You're fucking nuts. All I did was hit on her. I wasn't even touching her or anything. Psycho. The man says between coughs. Please be quiet. Sasuke has a bit of a temper. Hinata warns. Gee, you think? The man asks incredulously. Hinata, didn't you say that your father wanted to see you? You should probably get going. Sasuke says. Yes, I did, she says and leans over to whisper into Sasuke's ear. Please don't kill him, he's just being stupid, she pleads. He's not worth killing. I gave up swatting insects years ago. Sasuke says with a wise smirk that made Hinata's heart skip a beat. Thank you, she says with a smile and runs off. Anytime, he says and then glances at the man who was trying to crawl off. You are lucky. Hinata is too nice sometimes and you really aren't worth enduring a late dinner. He states and heads off. Call it sadism, but Sasuke couldn't resist getting one last shot in. The man was still laying on the ground. Sasuke kicks up some dirt underneath his sandals as he heads off, right into the man's eyes. He smirks when he hears the pervert cuss him out. Maybe today wasn't so bad after all. Hinata heads back to her estate. Her father actually didn't want to see her for lunch. It had been a white lie. She really didn't want to hurt the random ninja's feelings. But she wasn't interested and needed an excuse to get out of there. Unfortunately, it hadn't worked. Fortunately, she had a male teammate that happened to be nearby. Said teammate wasn't shy about throwing his weight around. Naruto and Sasuke were both fiercely protective of her. But she got the impression that Sasuke's protection included a lethal hue to it, that Naruto's wouldn't include outside of a mission. Lady Hinata, are you alright? You seem to have a great deal on your mind. One of the branch members inquires. Oh, I'm fine, she says with a smile. Good, he says, nodding his head, and returns to his other duties. Sasuke didn't realize it, but he was being watched. This time it was by another family member. Call him what you want. Tobi, Madara, Obito, it didn't matter. He would assume whatever identity was necessary to achieve his goals. He's forged strong bonds here. Unfortunate, that will make winning him over difficult. And he was taken in by my old teammate, how touching. Obito mutters to himself. You aren't going near my brother. Itachi hisses emerges from the shadows. That's rather hypocritical of you. Considering you murdered most of his family, I don't think that your protection means much to him at this point. Obito chuckles cruelly. You know the circumstances behind that. Itachi hisses. You are in no condition to fight me. How long do you think that medication can buy you? Another 6 months at most, I would think. He muses. Long enough and don't underestimate. Itachi warns him. There's no reason for me to fight a dead man. He taunts and soon disappears. Itachi growls. Damn it, he had to keep Obito away from Sasuke as long as possible. When he died, he'd transfer his visual prowess to him. Hopefully that would get the job done. Obito returns to his hideout. He shakes his head in amusement. Sasuke certainly had inherited the trademark Uchiha temper. He was surprised that man was still breathing honestly. Clearly, he had feelings for the Hyuga girl. Yes, this could definitely work to my advantage. He mutters, feeling oddly pleased about this latest development. Now that was ironic. The Hyugas and Uchihas had always been on icily cordial terms at best. At worst, they were one step away from a clan feud. Well, no matter, he supposed. Actually, this could work to his advantage. Surely, there was a way he could use the girl. Sasuke returns to his home. He heads into the kitchen and sets the milk down. Seeing Kakashi giving him the look, he sighs. There was no possible way that Kakashi had found out already, was there? The look was the closest that Kakashi got to normal parenting. It was that look that said, I know what you did. I don't approve, so don't even try bullshitting me. Sasuke hated the look with a fiery passion. Sasuke, what have I told you about your temper? Kakashi asks. That I should use it to kill as many perverts as possible? He asks hopefully. Sasuke. He says warningly. How do you even find out? It happened like 10 minutes ago, max. Did you even leave the house? He questions. Sasuke, I have ninja dogs. They keep a close eye on this village for me and on you too. Because I know you too. You are always getting into trouble. The silver-haired man points out. Well, that's accurate. Sasuke admits. Did you really had to throw him into a wall and into the dirt? Kakashi inquires sarcastically. Yes, I did. Hinata is too nice to do it herself. As her teammate and as a gentleman, I have an obligation to take out the trash like that. He says in a bored tone. That man was coughing up blood, Sasuke. I can understand threatening him verbally. I could overlook a punch, but he lost 2 teeth. Kakashi continues. Only 2? Damn, I was aiming for at least 3. The youngest Uchiha mutters. Sasuke. Kakashi growls. What? That creep was hitting on Hinata, when she clearly was Nicelly telling him to get lost. He states and honestly didn't see the need to defend himself. The pervert had deserved worse than Sasuke gave him. And you weren't just rough on him because you were jealous? Kakashi asks in amusement. I don't get jealous of insects. Sasuke replies in a tone that was more glacial than the snow country in the depths of winter. Of course not. Kakashi states in amusement. I just don't like trash like that, even thinking about touching her. He clarifies. You are rather possessive for someone who hasn't even told her of your feelings for her. Kakashi observes. I'll tell her after I kill Itachi, when it's safe. Sasuke snarls. I understand. Well, I suppose I should start on dinner, unless you wanted to cook tonight? His guardian asks hopefully. No way in hell. Sasuke states with a smirk and walks off. The next day, Sasuke goes to the lake. It was a warm summer day. He didn't have a mission. Neither did most of the other members of the Rookie 9. They all decided to take advantage of this and go swimming. Cannonball. Kiba cries out as he jumps into the water. I'm going to work on my tan. Ino says as she lounges out on a blanket. Ino pig, are you afraid to get wet? Sakura taunts and dives into the water. The power of youth. Lee cries out and makes a big splash. Ah, this is great. Naruto says as he heads into the water. Hey, Shikamaru, did you bring the food? Sasuke hears Choji asks and shakes his head in amusement. Yeah, of course I did. The lazy ninja replies. Come on Neji, it's okay to have fun sometimes. Tenten informs her stoic boyfriend. At least Sasuke thought they were dating. Hell, even Shino seemed to be having a good time. The aloof bug lover had waded into the water. Shino was surprisingly tone. Sasuke wasn't into men, but the girls definitely seemed to like what they saw. Please God, let the fangirls harass him now. Sasuke sends up a silent prayer to whatever deity might be listening. The youngest Uchiha wasn't picky. Hinata, come here, I'll put some suntan lotion on you. Sasuke offers. Alright, she says and walks over. Good, sit down. Sasuke gestures to the grass by him. Hinata sat down. He smiles. Sasuke pulls her hair to the side and decides to start on her neck. Fuck, her skin was so soft and warm. Her scent was that of jasmine and lavender. It was a soothing, alluring combination that ensnared his senses. Was it possible to get high off of someone's scent? Sasuke was beginning to wonder. Hinata blushes. She felt Sasuke's hands on her neck. They were firm but gentle. Attentive was the word that she would say would best describe it. That and very thorough. I'm glad you went with a one-piece suit. He murmurs in her ear. Why? She squeaks. After dealing with that idiot, I don't think I have the patience to deal with the mob of idiots a bikini would have drawn. He murmurs. You don't have to protect me. She tells him. I know. I want to though. Sasuke says and glides his hands over her arms, spreading more of the lotion. Hinata shivers. It was still very much a platonic tough. But there was something about the way he slid his hands over her arms, so slowly and deliberately that was highly suggestive. Maybe she was imagining it? There you are bastard. Come on, get in the water. Naruto hollers at him. Idiot. I'm helping Hinata. Sasuke mutters. I'm pretty sure that she can handle getting lotion on her arms. The blonde counters. Hinata, can you wait a minute? I think the loser wants his daily ass kicking. He gets so annoying if he doesn't get it. He says with a smirk. Sure. She says and blinks as Sasuke heads over to Naruto. It didn't take long for them to exchange blows. To civilians or even most ninjas it looked like a fight had broken out. But this was just play fighting. Sasuke and Naruto's version of play fighting was most people's definition of a barroom brawl though. Hinata had gotten used to it over the years. The two loved each other fiercely. They usually expressed this brotherly affection by trading blows. She didn't understand it, but she had come to accept it. That was just who Sasuke and Naruto were. There was no point in getting upset over it. They'd beat each other black and blue, but they'd never do permanent damage to their brother. You hit like a girl. Naruto calls out to Sasuke. You east loser. Sasuke yells and whacks him. Hinata laughs and she shakes her head. She was surprised when the other girls walked over and sat down next to her. She offers them a friendly smile. Then she gulps. She really didn't like that look in their eyes. It was scary. So are you and Sasuke, you know? Ino asks. You know what? She asks in confusion. Dating. Sakura clarifies. Oh no. Hinata answers. I heard that he knocked some guy's teeth out for hitting on you. Tenten muses. Well, it wasn't all of his teeth. It was just a couple. He was just trying to protect me. Naruto would have done the same. She mumbles. Nah, Naruto's an angel. He might have slugged the guy, but not hard enough to knock out teeth or leave a dent in the wall. Sakura argues. And I don't see Naruto putting suntan lotion on you. Ino says. Oh geez. The girls have Hinata cornered. Naruto mutters. You've got to be kidding. Sasuke sighs. Alright, bastard. We have to save her from the harpies. Let's do Operation Six Pack. He says. We are so not calling it that. Sasuke scoffs. It's an awesome name. Naruto protests. It's a stupid name, but we can argue about it later. You do it this time. I'm tired of getting stuff in the mail. Sasuke says. PFT. Who would have thought you were so shy? Naruto taunts. I'm not shy. I just don't like strutting for people I have no interest in. He counters. Alright, I got this bastard. Watch and learn. The blonde says and heads over to the girls. Hey, Sakura, Ino, Tenten, and Hinata. Naruto says. Sasuke was grateful that Naruto was no longer the scrawny little kid that he had made friends with. He darts over and grabs Hinata's hand. The youngest Uchiha drags her off. Mission accomplished. The princess was saved. Naruto had distracted the harpies. Sasuke smiles and leads her away from the others to the waterfall. That's better. Sorry, I didn't expect them to fucking swarm you like that. Sasuke says. It's okay. How long do you think we have until they realize we are gone? She asks curiously. I'd say at least 5 minutes. I don't think they know about the waterfall though. He muses. Good. They are a little scary sometimes. She sighs in relief. How do you think I feel? One of them stole my toothbrush once. What she did with it, I have no idea. I don't want to know. Sasuke informs her. That is creepy. Hinata agrees. Super creepy. He affirms. How do you find out about this place anyway? She asks. Aoda. He got thirsty one time when I summoned him and found it. Sasuke answers. Oh, maybe I should try to get a summoning contract. She says. Won't work. He warns her. Why not? She questions. I don't think they have summoning contracts to call the other angels down here. He states. That was really smooth, Master Sasuke. Aoda chimes in. Aoda. Sasuke groans and smacks his forehead when his giant snake summon makes his presence known. Yo. Hinata says, looking at the massive snake in awe and a little fear because well it wasn't every day you saw a snake that was bigger than a 2- or 3-story building. Hello, Lady Hinata. Aoda says and his tail swishes merrily, as if he was just positively delighted to be there, vaguely reminding Hinata of a dog wagging his tail. Don't worry, he's friendly. He has horrible timing, but he's friendly. Sasuke says with a sigh. I can see why he likes you. You have such lovely scales. Aoda says, causing Hinata to blush. He has a habit of saying whatever is on his mind. I think it's a summon thing. Sasuke warns her. Oh okay, thank you. She mumbles and shyly reaches over to touch Aoda. Aoda leans into the touch. He quite enjoyed being petted. He was sure Master Sasuke would as well. But he wanted to kill Itachi first. Oh well, more attention for him. A little lower. I can never get that spot. He says. Hinata smiles and scratches the serpent's back. Sasuke shakes his head. Aoda acted more like a dog than a snake sometimes. Oh well. He was loyal and obedient. The fact he didn't require 100 human sacrifices to be summoned was also a major plus. He likes you. Well, he likes anyone who gives him back scratches really. He's easy please. Sasuke mutters. It's funny. I didn't really think they did anything outside of battle. What's he doing here? Hinata asks curiously. Gamabunta is being as humans say, again. Aoda informs them. Who is that? The brunette inquires. He's Naruto's biggest summon. He has an attitude problem to put it mildly. They fight like cats and dogs. Sasuke explains. Oh, they are a lot like humans. She observes. Yes. They actually think they adopt us and not the other way around. Sasuke whispers to her. Hinata giggles at that. Aoda rolls onto his back for a belly rub. Hinata blinks but indulges him. Come on Hinata, let's get you home before the harpies notice you are missing. A shirtless Naruto is only going to distract them so long. Sasuke states, "Oh right, it was nice meeting you Aota," she says and heads off with her dark-haired teammate. "Hiyashi is probably going to throw a fit if he sees me walking you home, in our swimsuits." Sasuke states with a smirk, "You're right. I'll see you tomorrow at training then. I don't want you to get in trouble." Hinata stammers, "It's fine. Actually, on principle pissing your father off is kinda favorite hobby of mine." Sasuke admits. Hinata didn't know what to say to that. The feeling is mutual. "Don't worry about it," he assures her. Soon enough they arrive at the Hyuga estate. Sasuke blinks, he had to admit that it was massive. The white marble stone structures, the perfect green lush lawns, and even a stream that ran through the property were all so damn classical. The Hyugas valued strength, but they were also a bunch of peacocks in their own way. This estate was designed to be equal parts beautiful and intimidating. Hinata seems to be trying to make herself look as small as possible. Confused by this behavior, Sasuke looks around. He soon figured out why. They had an audience. The fact that he was shirtless and walking their heiress home had raised more than a few eyebrows. There was a lot of whispering and even some giggling going on. The fact that he was an Uchiha alone probably would have caused some whispering. The giggling was slightly amusing though. The more sadistic part of his personality was tempted to kiss Hinata goodnight. Why? Because he enjoyed kissing her, and as a lovely bonus, it would fuck with them all hardcore. He knew better though. No, wasn't the time. First, Itachi had to die. Then he could scandalize the Hyuga family with PDA. Yes, it was a good plan. What is causing all this commotion? Hiyashi asks Neji as they head towards the gardens, where all the chatter was going on. It looks like Sasuke Uchiha has walked Hinata home. The prodigy informs him, "That boy, I swear he has balls. He actually came here without an invitation? Need I send him to the hospital again?" Hiyashi scowls. "Uncle, if I may, I wouldn't. Kakashi would be most displeased and he is the new Hokage." Neji warns him, "Damn it, I despise that meddler." The older Hyuga states, "I'm well aware, but the fact remains if you attack his ward, he will grow angry. It won't be a clan matter because he isn't a Hyuga. So it will fall well within his rights to punish you." Neji continues, "I know. It is most unfortunate." He sighs and heads out to greet them. "Thank you for walking her home. I shall take my daughter inside now." Hiyashi says in a tone that said you are dismissed. Sasuke's eyes narrow. He had definitely picked up on that tone. "You know what? Screw it. Of course. Good night, Hinata." He tells her and presses a chaste kiss against her cheek, before slinking off gracefully into the night like a black panther. "That boy." Hiyashi practically seethes with rage. Hinata blushes hotly. She looks at Neji helplessly. Her cousin, thankfully, leads her away. Their father, uncle, was not going to be fit for human company for a few hours more likely than not. He'd rather not have his gentle cousin exposed to Hiyashi's wrath for something that wasn't even her fault. Sasuke sure knew how to push the Hyuga patriarch's buttons. Hiyashi scowls. How dare he? How dare he kiss Hinata with him standing right there? Such public displays of affection were most improper. This was especially true when half of the clan was watching. Was that boy raised by wolves? He growls. Oh wait, never mind, he was raised by Kakashi. Wolves had better manners than the copycat ninja. He supposed he should be grateful that a kiss on the cheek was all Sasuke was doing. Well, that had better be all he was doing. He wasn't going to have Sasuke ruin Hinata's innocence without a marriage. He might not like the boy, but he was from a powerful clan. He was also the only Uchiha left who had access to their family's assets. Combined with his powerful bloodline and his own impressive skills, he would just have to overlook how crude the boy was. Eventually, he'd have some manners beaten into him. Hinata blushes like mad as Neji takes her to her room. She couldn't believe that Sasuke had done that. He'd kissed her with her father standing only a few feet away. Alright, so it was only a kiss on the cheek. But Sasuke had to know how reserved her clan was. Didn't he know that he was playing with fire? She just hoped that her father didn't harass him too much. He was messing with him. Neji observes. Yes, I think so too. Hinata admits. Very few people can do that and live to tell the tale. The other Hyuga states in amusement. Sasuke's always been a survivor. She agrees. The next day, Hinata decides to get some early morning training in. She heads to the training grounds and sets up some posts. The sun had just risen only a few minutes ago. But it was a beautiful sunrise. That's when she felt someone cover her mouth and a slight pinch on the nerve of her neck. She was overcome with blackness. Obito catches her and races off. Early morning is always the best time to strike. He mutters. It was late enough so those who were night owls by nature were getting sleepy and too early for the early birds to be fully awake. No one ever expected an attack at 6 in the morning. When Hinata comes to her senses, she was bound. She couldn't feel her chakra. She assumed that some sort of chakra blocker had been given to her or the chains she was wrapped in might be causing it. I wouldn't bother struggling. Those chains are designed to drain energy if you do. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Madara, he states. That's impossible. Madara is dead. He has been for years. Hinata says and tries to get a good look at her kidnapper. The rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated. He informs her. He wasn't actually Madara, but he did enjoy using his ancestor's name to spread terror. If they thought him immortal, all the better. Hinata saw a man of slightly above average height. He wore an orange mask and had dark hair. But she could see his Sharingan. He certainly wasn't Sasuke or Itachi. He was too old to be Itachi. So the man must have been telling the truth, she decided. This immediately filled her with a sense of cold terror. Don't worry. If I wanted you dead, you already would be. You are merely bait. I need to have a talk with my descendant. He says. But how will he know that I'm here? She asks. Oh, I left him a little note. I imagine he'll be here shortly. Obito answers her question. Sasuke wakes up and finds some of Aoda's scales on his bed. But they spelled out a note. Foolish little brother, did you think I wouldn't notice you at the waterfall with her? Have you forgotten about our family so easily? It's no wonder you are weak. You lack hatred. Better run to the old family fortress if you want to see her alive again. Itachi. Obito had signed the letter in Itachi's name. He figured that would get Sasuke's attention faster. He smirks when he feels Sasuke's chakra signature barreling towards them. That was easy. He mutters. Who are you? You aren't Itachi. Sasuke demands. No, I'm not. But I know something about your older brother that you do not. Actually, many things. It is unfortunate that I had to resort to such tactics to get your attention. But one cannot argue with their effectiveness. He replies. Hinata. Sasuke says when he sees her chained up. Oh, she's fine. As I explained to her, if I wanted her dead, she would have been dead already. He continues. Those chains are very special. If you try to remove them or anyone besides myself does, it will cause her chakra system to combust and kill her instantly. It's a most unpleasant death. I will gladly take them off of her, after you have heard what I have to say. It's important. It is your job to bear witness after all. He says. Bear witness to what? He snarls. To the real story behind your brother. He's fooled you and everyone else quite successfully for years. But as his illness will kill him shortly, I think it is important that someone knows the truth. Who better than his little brother? He asks with a cruel smirk. Illness? He's sick? Sasuke demands to know. Oh yes, very sick. If it wasn't for the medication he is currently taking, he would have died long ago. In a way it is sweet that he would prolong his suffering, just so you can have the honor of killing him. Madara says. You're lying. He's not sick. Sasuke growls. I'm not. You were too young at the time to know what was going on. But after years of discrimination and our clan gradually falling from power, they were planning a coup. Your father was going to be their leader. The Leaf found out about it and inserted a spy into the clan. That spy was Itachi. He informs him. My father, the leader? Itachi a spy? You're lying. He snarls. It would have resulted in a civil war. The other villages would have seen the Leaf as weak and attacked. It easily could have spawned the next great ninja war. Itachi knew this. He was forced to choose between his clan and village. He chose the village. But after killing everyone, his father, his mother, his lover, he couldn't kill you. Do you know what that means? You were more precious to him than the entire village. He informs him. You're lying. He thunders at him. Sasuke, Hinata says. Think about it. It truly makes no sense to spare one clan member, knowing that you would want revenge. He wants to be punished. He figured it'd be a tidy little ending. The younger brother avenges the evil elder. You'd be the hero in this story and the Uchiha clan in theory could restart with a clean slate. A marvelous fairy tale, don't you think? So simple. Black and white. Good versus evil. And of course, you've even added a pretty princess to the tale. He chuckles. But that means, Sasuke says, that you have been serving the village that ordered your brother to kill every member of your family for years, yes? He says. Did Kakashi know? Sasuke demands to know. No, to my knowledge he didn't. Though I wonder how you would feel about your guardian, if you knew he took you in only because of guilt. Did you ever ask him how he got that Sharingan? He taunts him. He said, a friend gave it to him. His friend was dying, crushed by a boulder. Sasuke answers. That was true. Guilt. It was guilt for not being able to save his teammate and having to kill the other one. In your eyes, he sees Obito. It is his way of trying to atone for past sins, I believe. You didn't think he was playing house because of some foolish parental notion, did you? He continues. Shut up. Sasuke snarls and lunges at him, Chidori blazing. There is no need to be angry. I am sure that he did genuinely grow to care for you. So what will you do now that you know the truth? He asks, dodging the hit, and releases Hinata. I'm going to make them pay. He says. Sasuke, we don't know if he's even telling the truth. Hinata says. Seems your princess is suspicious of strangers, as she should be. Go ask Danzo and he'll admit it. Danzo has always had such a fondness for our family, particularly their corpses. There is a reason he never lets anyone see his arm. He informs him. I will. Sasuke says and walks over to Hinata. He eyes his ancestor warily. Was he really just going to let them walk out of here? It looked like it, but Sasuke had learned never to turn his back on anyone. You may go. As I said, I have no desire to kill her or you. You'll see that I gave you something no one else in that village ever was going to, the truth. Madara decrees and slips off into the shadows, like he was never there at all. Sasuke. Hinata says uncertainly. I have to know. He tells her. What makes you think he isn't just holding a grudge against the Leaf and trying to turn you against the village as an easy way to cause chaos? She questions. That's what I'm going to find out. Are you alright? He asks. I think so. I'm more worried about you than anything. She says. She'd never been afraid of Sasuke's Sharingan before. It was a beautiful ruby red color, exotic. It had always been a symbol that everything would be alright. But now, it had lost its protectiveness and looked more like a demon's eyes. A demon that was filled with seething rage, 1 second away from lashing out and destroying everything in its path. Let's get you home. You don't need to see any of this. Sasuke murmurs and takes her hand. I'm not leaving you. Not when you are like this. She says. Hinata, I said let's get you home. The youngest Uchiha repeats himself. And I said that I'm not leaving you. You've always protected me. Now I'm going to protect you, even if that means protecting you from yourself. She says determinedly. I'm not going to talk you out of this, am I? Sasuke asks. No. And if you try to leave me behind, I will get Naruto and Kakashi-sensei. She says. I suppose that settles it. I can't have the loser yelling his head off, while I'm trying to get answers. Come on. He says and offers his hand to Hinata. Meanwhile, Itachi was laying in Conan's arms. It was a strange bond that they had formed. She was 14 years his senior. So perhaps it was only natural that she would take on something of a maternal role for the group. She knew that he had every intention of dying at the hands of his younger brother. Even if he didn't, his illness would have killed him eventually. The only way it wouldn't was seeking highly specialized treatment that no criminal ninja was going to get. Yet, she still insisted on tending to him. He indulged her. I will miss you when you are gone. She murmurs, running her fingers through his hair. I will miss you too. Itachi finds himself admitting, their relationship wasn't UAL. Mostly because of Itachi's illness. Such strenuous, unnecessary activities would have agitated his already fragile body further. Death would embrace even sooner than he had planned, if he decided to pursue carnal activities. That, and even if he was able to, it wouldn't be fair. He knew that he was going to die soon. It would be cruel to start something he couldn't finish, as he had unintentionally done with his first love, Izumi. Itachi was young when he was promoted to Anbu captain. He'd only been 13. While he was a genius and his ninja skills were exceptional, he was still barely a teenager. So he felt a bit out of place, whenever the others on his squad would talk about their lovers or who they wanted to be with. You like her? One of his squad members said. It was late at night. The bonfires were still burning brightly in his clan's district. Members of his family were dancing wildly to some music. The flames rising higher and higher, casting an ethereal glow on the surrounding areas. His clan called it the Fire Festival. The rest of the Leaf was either unaware of it or didn't celebrate it. Unfortunately, the Hokage somehow had found out about it. He had concerns and wanted them to watch closely. He had said that he was worried the fires might get out of hand. But Itachi had an uneasy feeling. He felt there was more to it than that. She's beautiful, Itachi admitted, much to the delight of his teammate. He had meant it too. Itachi had never really noticed girls before. He graduated the academy at 7, mastered the Sharingan at 8, become a Chunin at 10, and now was in charge of an Anbu squad. He'd been busy. Between his ninja career and his family, he had little time to think of anything else really. Her hair was long, chocolate brown, and came to her slender waist. She was the same age as him and just beginning to blossom. She had the classical Uchiha fair complexion. Her skin looked like it was made of the moonlight itself. Her eyes the same color as her hair and wide with the joy of youth. She wore a sleeveless purple dress. She was a genin. He expected she'd take the Chunin exams soon though. If Itachi hadn't been promoted so quickly, they would have graduated from the academy together. For a teenager, yeah. Go ahead, Itachi. Ask her to dance. We can handle it. Besides, what better way to make sure things don't get out of hand, than to be right in the thick of the action? He had smiled at him. I don't know if that's a good idea. He murmured. Ah, our captain is shy. That's so cute. His first crush. Someone take a picture. I think he's blushing. The famous Itachi Uchiha is blushing like a genin with his first crush. Another had teased. Itachi narrowed his eyes at him. Bastard. Well, he couldn't let that challenge to his manhood go unanswered. He found himself walk towards the fire and to Izumi. Do you want to? He trails off. Ninja genius or not, he was still a boy asking a girl to dance for the first time. It had been awkward, but Izumi had smiled at him. She was kind, not making him even finish the sentence, before wrapping her arms around his neck and dancing with him. I'd love to, she had said with such a sweet, genuine smile. They had danced with each other the rest of the night. It was the perfect day to Itachi. His family was all there. Everyone was happy. He had Izumi in his arms. For one night, just one, Itachi had been just a normal teenage boy. If only he had known what would happen just a few months later. That everything was going to be taken from him. Maybe he wouldn't have allowed himself to taste happiness. It only made it that much more painful when it was taken away. Years later, he would still honor her memory by wearing purple fingernail polish. She had always been so fond of the color. It had been her favorite. The world is cruel. You deserved better than this. She murmurs. We all did. He says. That is true. Well, except for Deidara. He is an idiot. She states. Yes, yes he is. Itachi agrees with a laugh. He knew it was just a temporary escape. But laying in Kohan's arms, his head on her breasts, enjoying her gentle touch, and some good-natured mocking of Deidara, it was easy to forget. Forget for just a little while that he'd be dead soon. This wouldn't last. It couldn't last. But he would enjoy the moment while it did. Happy moments were all too few in this world. Danzo was in his office. He enjoying a fine glass of sake and looking over the various reports that his root member had given him. That's when he heard many thuds outside his door in rapid succession. Curious, he rises to his feet and cautiously goes to see what was going on. He needn't have done so though, Sasuke just kicked down the door. He raises an eyebrow. Save for Itachi, the Uchihas had to be the most impatient clan that he had ever known. I believe it is customary to knock when you wish to speak with someone first. He says dryly, you're going to tell me what I want to know or you will end up like your guards. Sasuke says, his Sharingan was whirling dangerous, and Danzo now noticed he had brought the Hyuga girl with him. Now that was odd. He had always suspected that sooner or later, Sasuke would learn the truth. Him bringing Hinata with him though, that was unforeseen development. Oh, he was aware that it was likely the survivor of the massacre had feelings for the shy girl. But he would have thought Sasuke would seek to protect her from what he was sure was about to be a lot of unpleasantness. Oh well, it didn't matter. Not really. What mattered was Sasuke had found out the truth. He wasn't entirely certain how, but he knew. He just knew that Sasuke was now aware of what really happened that day. Things were about to get very interesting. You'd do well to learn a little patience. Threats do not work on me. I survived the war, boy. He informs him. You won't survive this if you don't tell me the fucking truth. Sasuke grabs Danzo's arm and rips his sleeve off. Hinata lets out a horrified gasp when she sees it. His arm was covered in Sharingans. It was ghastly looking, but now she could see what Madara had meant by corpses. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't kill you. You sick grave robber? Disgracing the dead like that won't go unpunished. Did you even wait until their bodies were cold in the ground? He snarls and slams Danzo against the wall. They were dead. Why waste such valuable weapons? He counters. I'm going to tear you apart. Sasuke seethes. Madara sought you out, did he not? He asks. Yes, he did. He told me that Itachi was ordered to conduct the massacre to prevent a civil war. Is that true? Sasuke says and bashes Danzo's head against the wall after every word in the last question. Boy, you are foolish if you think I'm just going to let you kill me. Danzo says and he stabs Sasuke harshly in the stomach with a kunai. Sasuke. Hinata cries out. Oh, don't worry about your lover. That's not a fatal spot. He'll be fine. Danzo says. You won't. Sasuke hisses. You are 18 now, is that right? You're older than Itachi was when he was forced to bear that horrible burden. I suppose you are old enough to know the truth. Your brother's sacrifice should be remembered and honored, if only by you. He states. So it is true then. Sasuke murmurs. Sadly yes. Your brother understood that certain sacrifices must be made to keep everything running smoothly. There are many who live in the shadows, so that others can live in the light. Your brother didn't want you to see this world. What it truly takes to keep the leaf going. He replies. If the village has to order a 13-year-old boy to commit a massacre against his own clan, then it isn't worth preserving. He snarls. Hinata watches in horror. She didn't recognize Sasuke at the moment. Gone was the boy who would talk about angels and stand up to her father. He'd been replaced by a demon of pure rage. His Sharingan wasn't beautiful at that moment but utterly terrifying. She knew without a doubt that if Sasuke got out of this building, he was going to go on a rampage. People were going to die. He'd do something that couldn't be taken back. She had to do something. Sasuke, I'm sorry. She mumbles and hits him on the back of the neck, striking a nerve that made fall limp to the floor. Thank you, Lady Hinata. Danzo murmurs. Don't thank me. Sasuke would have killed you quickly in his rage. That's too good for you. A public disgrace when people find out you have a graveyard on your arm, should be far more fitting. She blocks his chakra and renders him immobile. Hinata had one advantage over Sasuke and Danzo in a fight. Despite how powerful they were, the fact that neither viewed her as a threat made it very easy to get a hit in. She'd taken a couple cheap shots. But they had worked. That's what mattered. She races them both back to the Hokage tower. Kakashi would know what to do, right? He had to. No one knew Sasuke better than his guardian. He'd know how to make this right. Hinata, what are you doing here and why are you carrying two unconscious men? Is that Sasuke? Kakashi asks as his eyes widen. Yes, it's Sasuke and Danzo. It's a long story, but we need to restrain them both before they wake up. Sasuke he's not himself. He's furious. Rage has taken over him. I'm worried about what he'll do if he isn't restrained. Danzo should be hanged for what he did. She says, I'll restrain them, but you must tell me what is going on. Kakashi states and quickly takes out some chakra restraints, tying Danzo and Sasuke up, but keeping them separate. I was kidnapped by a man claiming to be Madara. He did it to get Sasuke's attention. He says that Itachi was ordered to carry out the massacre. That Itachi did it to prevent a civil war in the Leaf that could have triggered another great war. He said Danzo knew and something about him having a fondness for Uchihas, particularly their corpses. Sasuke went to confront Danzo. The man has Uchiha eyes on his arm. He says it's true. Sasuke is out for blood. I knocked them both out while they were distracted with each other and brought them here. She says in a rush. I always did find it suspicious that someone who loved his family as much as Itachi did would kill them at random one night. I should have pressed. I should have looked deeper. But you did the right thing. Just seeing Danzo's arm alone would have triggered a violent rage in Sasuke. He's strong enough that he'd take many people down with him if he decided to attempt destroying the village. I'm going to need your help, Hinata. You might be the only person who can calm him slightly in this instance. We will get answers, he promises. Yes, Lord Hokage. She agrees. Hours later, Sasuke groans. His body felt sore in a way that was familiar. Hiashi had locked up his chakra once before. so he knew what he was feeling. Where am I? Sasuke asks. You're home. Kakashi informs him. But Danzo. Hinata. He says. Hinata is fine. Danzo was already subdued. We are going to get to the bottom of this. But I need you to keep a level head. If you want to get to the bottom of this, to find out what really happened to your family and why, you will do it. I'll send Hinata in. She seems to know more about this situation right now than I. He adds. Alright, Sasuke says. Kakashi looks at his ward warily. He'd accepted that far too easily. The silver-haired Hokage had expected him to still be raging. His calmness disturbed Kakashi far more than Sasuke lashing out would have at this point. Maybe it wasn't safe to leave Hinata alone with him. He shakes his head. No, he was being ridiculous. No matter what was wrong with Sasuke, he wouldn't hurt Hinata. Besides, he was restrained and couldn't access his chakra. She'd be perfectly safe. That, and he had promised to bring her in. Scared Kakashi? Sasuke says mockingly. His tone of voice sent a chill through the Hokage. He'd never heard Sasuke take that tone before. It was one that was so cold, so mocking. In that moment, he was every inch Madara's descendant. Bring her in. I'd never hurt Hinata. This village though, I'll level to the ground if I find out that Danzo told the truth. He snarls. Kakashi sighs and goes to get Hinata. Maybe she could calm him down. The older ninja had no idea how to handle this new Sasuke. Hinata walks into Sasuke's room. She'd never been in here before. She smiles. It looked like Sasuke and Naruto still shared bunk beds. That was so cute. Sasuke was on the bottom one now. Probably because it was easier to put an unconscious person on the bottom than the top. She lost her smile when she saw Sasuke's expression. That wasn't the Sasuke she knew. Still, she had to try. I'm sorry, she mumbles, for what happened to my family or knocking me out while my back was turned. He asks. Both. I had to. I didn't want you to attack the village and get hurt. She answers honestly. I know. I'm not angry with you. That's just who you are. You try to save everyone, even if they don't deserve it. That's why you would have angels for your summons, if such a thing were possible. He murmurs. You aren't? She asks, surprised that he wasn't furious. She had attacked while his back was turned. I could never be angry with you. The village is another matter. He tells her. Sasuke. She says with a sad sigh. Hinata, don't look at me like that. Not with those sad eyes of yours. That's heartbreaking. He informs her. I can't help it. I don't want anything to happen to you. If what he says is true, this isn't the village that I thought it was. She mumbles. I think I know what would help me feel at least a little better. He murmurs. What? She asks. Some watermelon. He answers cryptically, leans up slightly, despite the chains, and kisses her. Hinata gasps. Whatever she thought Sasuke had meant by watermelon, she didn't think he meant that. How bizarre, that he apparently associated watermelons with kissing. But she decided not to question it. Sasuke takes advantage of the gasp, to deepen the kiss. He knew it was foolish. He was letting himself get distracted. But he just wanted to enjoy something pure and good. Besides, he was restrained. He wasn't going to be able to kill every last one of them yet. He might as well enjoy the feeling of her soft lips against his. She lets out a quiet moan into the kiss and begins to return it. Sasuke smirks at this. Unlike the first time, she was kissing back. This was even better than their first one. He groans as a tidal wave of lust hit him. If only his fucking hands weren't bound. He wanted to touch her so badly. He settles for gliding his tongue along hers and exploring every corner of her sweet mouth. It felt good. Really good. Last time, Hinata had been in shock. She hadn't really had a chance to process if she liked the kiss or not. She was just stunned that he had kissed her at all. But now that she did, she knew that Sasuke excelled in kissing like he excelled in battle. She was on top and he was chained. But somehow, he still controlled the kiss effortlessly. Well, Hinata was more than content to let him take the lead. He seemed to know what he was doing and it felt good. Unchain me. I want to be able to touch you. He says after breaking the kiss by tugging on her lower lip. You were trying to trick me into letting you go. Hinata says accusingly, and she couldn't believe how stupid she'd been. She had completely fallen for it. He was just trying to seduce her. He wanted out of the chains. That was all. Hinata, I've wanted you since I was 12. I wasn't trying to trick you. I'll let Kakashi play detective. If what Danzo and Madara said is true, I'm burning this fucking village to the ground. But I'll take you, Naruto, Kakashi, and whatever family members you want to bring with us. I'm not faking being attracted to you. He tells her, and to prove his point, he grinds his arousal against her. Hinata blushes hotly. She might have been innocent. But she wasn't that innocent that she didn't know what she had just felt against her leg. That couldn't be faked. You know, usually when I imagined one of us being tied up, it was more fun than this. He admits. Hinata was speechless. Light bondage isn't your thing? That's alright, he says. I don't know really. I never really thought about it. How can you go from being so angry to so? She trails off. Easy. I can't use my chakra. I can barely move. As much as every fiber of my being wants to make this village pay, I need proof, and I can't do anything like this. So I need to focus on something else. I figure it might as well be on the woman I love. He says, you love me? She asks. Yes. Like I said, I've always wanted you. I've always liked you. You make me feel more at peace. I didn't know if it was love or not because I'd never been in love before. But when he took you, I knew. When I thought someone might have killed you to get to me, you have no idea how painful that felt. He admits. Sasuke, she begins to say. It's alright. You don't have to say anything right now. I shouldn't have sprung that on you when all of this is going on. My timing could have been a lot better. He replies. Yeah, it could have. She giggles. That's better. No more sad eyes. He tells her. It was at that moment that Naruto came charging in. The blonde seemed unaware of the moment that he had interrupted. He races over to his best friend. Sasuke, are you okay? I heard you fucking lost it. The blue-eyed man says. I'm not okay. According to Danzo, Itachi was ordered to kill our family. Sasuke explains in the fastest and simplest way he knew how to do so. What? Oh come on. No way. That old man must be going senile. Who would have ordered that? He asks. My guess Danzo and the council. I'm not sure if the third had a hand in it or not. I know Kakashi didn't. He mutters. Damn right. Kakashi would never do something like that. I think the old bastard is lying. Naruto states firmly. I don't think he is. Why make up something like that? Danzo has been trying to lead this village for decades. Why make up a lie that could destroy it? Sasuke reasons. Something is going on. We'll get to the bottom of this. You should probably sleep off the worst of the chakra blocking. Hinata, did you really lock up both of their chakra? Naruto asks, sounding impressed. I had to. It was the only way to protect the village and Sasuke. She answers. Yeah, I would have done the same thing. Come on, let's let him get some rest. He says and leads Hinata off. Hinata, why's your lip all puffy? The blonde asks once they are out down the hall. Oh, the brunette says and doesn't seem to know how to answer that question. I swear if that bastard hit you, best friend or not, the fur is going to fly. That is so not cool. You were only trying to help. The blonde says. Thank you, Naruto. But Sasuke didn't hit me. He kinda did the opposite, really. She mumbles. What did he do? Come on, Hinata, you can tell me. We are teammates. We are friends, right? Friends can tell each other anything. He reasons. He kissed me. She answers. Oh, damn. Well, I always thought that he liked you. 'Bout time the bastard acted on it. Naruto says. Hinata blushes. She just nods. The Hyuga heiress didn't know what else to say. The relationship, if you could call it that, was too new. Did you like it? He asks with all the tact of a toddler. Yes. I just wish that things were the way they were yesterday. I barely recognize him now. He's different. I'm worried, Naruto. Really worried about him and even for the village. She mumbles. Don't worry. The bastard is a lot of things, but stupid isn't one of them. He says. Meanwhile, Kakashi was searching for answers. Could this be true? Was the massacre really in order? He waits for Danzo to wake. He was going to get some answers, one way or another. He wasn't going to let Sasuke just languish in limbo. The truth had to come to light, no matter how painful. I suppose Sasuke must have told you what I told him. Danzo says dryly, as he awakens. He did. No more games. This ends now. I want to know the truth. I'm going to find it. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Kakashi warns him. I've always done things the hard way. I see no reason to change that now. Danzo replies. Good. I was hoping you'd say that. Your arm alone is reason enough to make you suffer. But I'm glad you gave me another excuse to draw this out. Kakashi growls at him. Back at the Akatsuki headquarters, Kisame blinks. Well, he'd be damned. He hadn't expected to walk in on that. Itachi was laying sprawling in Conan's lap. She was running her fingers through his hair and they were speaking to each other. Itachi seemed to have decided that Conan's breasts made for a nice pillow. Kisame couldn't pick up on what was being said. Maybe pillow talk, maybe something important. Either way, the blue-skinned ninja had to know. Well, Itachi, I always knew that pretty face of yours would make the ladies a sucker for you. But I didn't think Conan was that much of a cougar. He taunts, which earns him quite the annoyed glare from the blue-haired woman. Kisame, did you need something? Itachi asks, clearly ignoring the comments on their relationship. Yeah, well, it's about your kid brother. I saw him racing along to one of your family's old fortresses. He looked to be in quite the hurry. Something is up. Thought you might want to know. But I can see the two of you are busy. He finishes with a smirk. Conan chucks a pillow at the shark-like man. She had had it with his taunts. Itachi chuckles and places a chaste kiss on her cheek to soothe her. Then his eyes narrow at what Kisame told him. I will look into it. He states and rises to his feet. Itachi, you can't go out like this in your condition. Conan says. I don't have a choice. He mutters and follows Kisame. Stay close to me, Itachi says when they enter the fortress. Ah, Itachi. I knew you would come. I didn't expect you to bring a friend though. Tisk, tisk, Madara says. What did you do to Sasuke? Itachi demands. Nothing. I didn't harm a hair on your precious baby brother's head. I simply did what no one else has done for the boy. He replies cruelly. And what is that? The other Uchiha asks. I told him the truth. He knows everything now. Madara says and Itachi lashes out at him. You had no right. The sick man howls in outrage. I had every right. This is after all a family affair. We all share the same blood. I prefer a truth that draws a tear, rather than a lie that draws a smile. What about you? He states and effortlessly dodges Itachi's attack. Where is he now? Itachi demands. Oh, he went to see Danzo. He and his lover were skeptical of my claims. Madara says conversationally. Danzo? Itachi mutters. Yes, that's right. I imagine he's already gotten to him by now. But you should go. You aren't going to want to miss those fireworks. He says and flits off into the shadows. Itachi curses under his breath. He takes off. He had to get to Sasuke. He had to stop his foolish little brother from doing something stupid. He just hoped he was not too late.